Call this meeting to order. It's February 16th, 2021, 6 p.m. First order of business is public comment session. We have 4 people signed up for public comments. You have 4 minutes each. Please state your name when you come up to talk. When 3 minutes is gone by, I'll hold up this card. When your time's up, I'll hold up this card. John Eckhart.
My name is John Agar, and I live in Indian Oaks. And I'm here this evening, not because I have a complaint or any criticism, but rather to thank the council for your moving ahead with the fire station in Bountyland. More of the number of people that I've talked to are very enthusiastic about the fact that we're going to land up with a fire station. And we're also happy to know that we're going to be within a very short distance. The current distance is somewhere around 10 miles from the nearest fire station, the particular area that we live in. So anyway, we'd like to thank you and express our appreciation for your moving ahead with that. I also have a request that I'd like to make, and that is, I'm wondering if you have leverage with the Norfolk and Southern Railroad. Keep driving by Blue Ridge Boulevard and Kiwi School Road, and there's just so much debris along the sides of the road, and I know they're difficult to deal with, but somehow I would hope that maybe you could have some leverage and get them to clean it up. There are railroad ties that are chopped up that are left on the side of the road, and they have a pile by the CVS. It's about 4 foot high, and there's even some rails that are there along the side of the road. And as we try to beautify the county, I think it'd be good to see if we could work in that particular area and see if we could do something. Thank you for your time.
If I say your name wrong, please forgive me. I believe it's Matt Pastel.
Postel. I live in Westminster. Name's Matt Postel. 2 weeks ago, I was unable to speak concerning the resolution making the Cont County a sanctuary city for the unborn. Since I don't have much time, I want to get right down to business. This is for Mr. Elliott, Mr. Kane, and Mr. Davis. Your main argument for voting against the resolution was it's a federal and state's issue, not a county issue. But on March 4th, 2020, you all passed a resolution to declare Cont County a sanctuary city for the Second Amendment. So let me get this straight. The Second Amendment is a county issue, but the right to be born is not. That power is reserved to the states and federal government alone. So the right to guns is county. The right to life, we'll go talk to your state and federal representatives and leave us out of it. Mr. Davis, you stated this is not a right or left. We are all citizens out here. Does that statement include the unborn? You went on to read the mission statement of Cont County. The mission statement states to provide current and future citizens quality services. Are the unborn not considered future citizens? It goes on to say, provide a safe community. Does providing a safe community apply to the unborn? It says a rich quality of life. You can't have quality of life without life. You go to state, your purpose is to give mentorship to the youth. Mr. Davis, in order to be the youth, you have to first be born. Your focus is to create better lives. Better lives for whom? The unborn? You finish with let's support each other. That's what the resolution guaranteed. You voted against it. Mr. Kane, you said this resolution creates division. Being a lawyer, would you agree the Civil Rights Act of 1964 created division? What about Brown v. Board of Education? Do we care about division or do we care about justice? You state that this resolution is not the functions of county government. And then you go on to state the county should address unwanted pregnancy and show that these women, there's a better way. So what is it? Excuse me, so wait, is it or is it not functions of county government? Can't have it both ways, Mr. Kane. Now on to the public comment section made by citizens of Cont County. One of the ladies got up here and says, my body, my choice. Well, same argument that slave owners hold in the 18th and 19th century. My property, my choice. My slave, my choice. We'd all agree that's probably a absurd argument. Had another lady come up here and said the reason why the crime rates in the 90s were not high, or they could have been higher, or they would have been higher if we didn't abort the kids in the 70s. That's an absurd argument. Again, her argument is, the basis of her argument is, hey, let's just kill all the poor kids. She also says, hey, these are potential criminals. Potential criminals or potential lawyers, potential doctors, maybe even potential councilmen one day. Shaking up here because I have 5 conservatives up here. I'm nervous. We have 5 conservatives up here. You guys didn't protect the right to life. That's a problem for me. So I'll end with this. It's a sad day when 3 conservatives have a top-down view of government. So it's a federal or state issue. They're not taking the power that you guys have, the sovereignty of actual Coney County, and actually doing what's right. It's also sad to hear that this resolution will have no impact. You know, that's easy said, Mr. Kane, when all of us are sitting here tonight because our mothers decide to choose life. Thank you.
David McMahon.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is David McMahon. I'm here to talk just a little bit about a few things. First of all, I want to read the Republican platform, the National Republican platform, and it refers to the Fifth Amendment of protecting human life. The Constitution's guarantee that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property deliberately echoes the Declaration of Independence proclamation that all are endowed by the Creator with the inalienable right to life. Accordingly, we assert the sanctity of human life and affirm that the unborn child has a fundamental right to life which cannot be infringed. We support human life amendment to the Constitution and legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment protections applied to children before birth. Now, all 5 of you run on the Republican ticket. This is the Republican platform. I am thankful that Mr. Hart and Mr. Durham are conservatives. We need conservatives. Conservatives are starting to realize that we need a voice. We've not had a voice. You guys are the voice of conservatism in Oconee County right now, and I appreciate y'all. Also, the Declaration of Rights in Article 1 of the South Carolina State Constitution says the privileges and immunities, due process, equal protection of laws, the privileges and immunities of citizens of this state and the United States under this Constitution shall not be abridged, nor shall any person be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. I believe that the unborn has equal protection under the law. Also, I know my time is limited. We're going to be talking tonight about some ordinances, about signs and how my house or my building should look in the future. I think because of the safety and health and welfare, as we always talk about, this place talks about safety a lot. Okay, let's talk about a particular neighborhood that does need help with the county. It is the Mill Hill in Seneca. That neighborhood needs help. The folks living along the lake and all the tourists on Greenville and around coming to put their boats in the water, they're going to be fine, okay? The problem is, in my previous job, my former boss is right back here in the back. He can attest to this. I personally was the lead investigator who sent 3 people to prison for murder that come out of 14 Patchett Street. People behind me knows that that was considered one of the most dangerous places in Oconee County, okay? I helped in investigations with drug overdoses. I helped investigations with drug raids. Come out of there and it always was said nothing could be done. Well, I got tired of hearing that nothing could be done. I went down there and I bought the place. and I have turned it over title to Oconee County, and I believe that the people down there deserve to have a nice place to live. I've walked the streets down there and interacted. The sheriff wanted us to interact with the people in the community. I got out of my vehicle and did it. They said, why can't we do something about this place down here so that we can live in safety? If you guys want to worry about safety in the place, I know tourists don't drive by Paget Street, but those people, your constituents, need help. Why don't you work on that a little bit? Let's actually help people. I appreciate y'all.
Frankie Pearson.
My name's Frankie Pearson. I'm speaking for myself, no one else. Back on the same subject of my law enforcement, after doing some more research, I found out we only have 90 officers in this county, minus the 16 resource officers that we have that are in our schools, but there's 90 officers out here. We have children being molested, old people being mugged, all kind of crimes in here. We don't have enough officers in this county to keep our citizens safe anywhere. We should have at least 120 officers. That's a minimum. But nope, we only got 90. We also don't pay them enough. I mean, 38,000, 35,800 or whatever it is, should be 40,000 minimum. I mean, you want to raise our taxes to buy land. You want to raise our taxes to do all kind of stuff, but yet your job is to keep this county and the people in it safe and to get us back and forth if something happens, get us medical services in this county. It's not to worry about anything else. 40,000 is not a lot of money. We got people that working at McDonald's want to make $15 an hour. Our police officers don't even make $15 an hour. Y'all need to start. I know you're looking into it. I know you're doing a great job with that, but just hiring 1 or 2 officers a year don't cut it. We need officers, and I understand you can't hire 20 at one time. Mike can't get them all trained, or excuse me, Mr. Crenshaw. But get a substantial amount of officers and pay these people that get out there and get shot at and run into these drug houses and deal with these pedophiles. You know, do something right for a change instead of, I don't know, maybe I'm going overboard with this, but I'm just real passionate about getting our officers the money that they deserve and getting enough officers in here where my grandkids can be safe to walk the streets anywhere they want to. Other than that, I may have to start carrying a shotgun around everywhere I go to keep them safe. Thank you.
Council member comments.
Yes, Mr. Elliott. So I spoke just briefly with Ms. Brock about this right before the meeting started, but, you know, I talked in the first meeting of the year about, you know, freedom's under attack in America, and that we can't control what happens everywhere else, but we can control what happens right here. And I was disappointed to learn at the last meeting that people was turned away at the door, wasn't allowed to speak, because it was at COVID capacity. I mean, that's unacceptable. I mean, that right there violated those citizens' First Amendment right to come in here and address this council. And I've been assured it's not going to happen again. It looks like we have a good procedure in place tonight to ensure everybody's able to speak. Also, Mr. Frankie, you're dead on. It's about priorities. You know, our number one job should be protecting the people of this county, not worried about timber framing or making things look pretty, you know? But that's all I have. Thank you.
Moment of silence, please. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this day that you have made. Thank you for creating us and sustaining our existence. And help us really to rejoice in the day, to be grateful, to remember it's a gift, that we're not promised tomorrow, so that we live in each moment. And we're wading into, I guess, a year into this pandemic, and it's trying, and there are a lot of depressed folks out there, and there's a lot of division. I just pray for your encouragement throughout this county and this state and this land, for some unity, for the ability to express different opinions and to hear one another, to listen carefully, to do that before we are eager to speak or get inflamed and angry. That we look out for our neighbor and that we would do the right thing. And we only know that by your guidance. So I pray that this would be your meeting, and I pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Hart, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the February 2nd, 2021 regular minutes? Second. I'll remind council, when we vote, we will vote voice and with our hand. All in favor? Aye. Ms. Brock?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd really like to thank the members of the public who are here this evening to come speak about concerns, matters, kudos in your community, and especially those who are waiting in the hallway. We are stuck with the COVID restrictions. We certainly appreciate your patience with that and hope that you do not feel left out of the meeting. If it were up to us, we would all be in here together. Secondly, just a reminder for council and the public, we do have our strategic planning meeting Friday, February 19th, beginning at 9 a.m. Please do bring your homework sheets with you or a rendition thereof.
Mr. Root?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. One matter that needs a motion and then some comments regarding 2021-05 and 2021-06. First, and I'll explain this, and I've talked to you, Mr. Chairman, about it, but if I could have a motion to amend the agenda to insert, after the public hearings, a discussion on Ordinance 2021-06, not to include a formal reading, but to include instructing the Planning Commission to review, report on, and issue a recommendation in relation to 2021-06, and to develop estimated cost upcharges to meet standards. That the Planning Commission will have 30 days to issue this report and recommendation.
Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
If I could, just, it's not really a final action, but if it's taken that way, the exigency would be that ordinance is with the Planning Commission for a public hearing currently.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, and for the members of the public, for some background on 05 and 06, why they are the way they are now. 05 did not, where it lined up in Chapter 32 of the code, it didn't require that it went back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing, so that's why it's here for third reading and its public hearing. 06 did require, by virtue of where it was in the Code of Ordinances, to go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing. So that's why we don't have third reading or second reading on it today, just the public hearing. Generally what we do, Katie, our clerk, not Adam, as soon as the first reading is over with, she goes ahead and notices the public hearings for third reading just because of the time that's required to get the proper notice out. So once that's done as a matter of form, even if we're not going to have a third reading on that ordinance that day, we leave the public hearing on so folks will have an extra chance if needed to speak about it. So that's why 06 is on there today. That's why we made that motion, so council would have a chance to respond to any comments about 06 and direct the Planning Commission if they so saw fit. Another matter, not speaking to the merits of these ordinances, it's not my bailiwick, good, bad, or indifferent, But I want to speak to the procedural kind of posture of where they are, because that does fall with me. Concerns were brought to my attention regarding the nature of these ordinances, whether they were planning, development type ordinances as we took them, falling within Chapter 32 clearly, or whether they are more in the nature of zoning ordinances. We had been working along, they came out of Chapter 32. They did not deal with uses. Customarily, traditional zoning is commercial, industrial, residential, and so on, and those are use-based zoning. And so we're floating along on those paths, but the concerns brought to me made me do some more research. I spent this weekend doing it, dug into it, talked to our chairman and a member of our council to talk about my findings. Generally, and just to summarize and not speak too long, in digging deeper, I got to the point where I was cautious enough, concerned enough that I felt like we needed to treat these. My recommendation was to treat these as if they were coming out of Chapter 38, as if they were essentially a rezoning, and that the council took their action on them accordingly. Generally, a rezoning is moving between district to district or classification to classification. This is a little bit different. Both of these ordinances are. But these elements, generally they're design-oriented or aesthetic-oriented. They also speak to parking, and oftentimes those elements are part of a traditional zoning district. And I think more importantly, our South Carolina code speaks to regulating these type of issues within our zoning powers. You can also do it within police powers. Sometimes they bleed together, sometimes they don't. It's a very nuanced area of law, but because you want to do this right, that's why I wanted to make this motion. My recommendation was that both of these ordinances go to the Planning Commission for a review, their report and their recommendation, how they line up with the comp plan, et cetera, and that the County Council then have a subsequent public hearing on both of the ordinances, involving the public as much as they can. That is all on me that this wasn't done earlier. And I don't know if I was cruising along with a 25-year understanding of the nature of these. And so when this came to me this weekend and worked it up, that's what we got here now. It's not on council. Nobody was trying to push these through quickly. They were doing what they thought was the right thing to do. So hopefully that makes sense and clarifies procedurally how these line up. Glad to answer any questions. I just wanted to address those matters. I know it's garnered a lot of interest.
So Mr. Root, does this require each property owner to be notified via U.S. mail and by signs on properties?
So what I found on that, there's not a whole lot of law. There's an AG opinion. There's another case that deals with it as an ancillary matter. When you're dealing with widespread, generally a municipal-wide or a large area of the municipality of a general concern, as opposed to a specific area, like we're rezoning these 20 parcels, it's not required. Obviously, it can be cost prohibitive, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. But the posting is for rezonings of that small area. Mailings are considered the same. My research was that for this type of, especially 06, with this wide swaths of areas, more akin to a comprehensive plan, or the changes that we've done in the districts, what can and cannot happen in certain districts, that doesn't require notice to every single property owner. Not saying, if we had the money to do it, or whatever we can do to get the public involved, better, because that's the fundamental issue. Let's do everything we can to notify the public and give them an opportunity to be heard, which they're here, which is great. But I don't believe it's a requirement. I believe that's a fit for a different type of proceeding.
Mr. Root?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I just have to spend some more time with you, because if I read chapter 38, 8.2, I can see Charlie C talking about persons, talking about small area zoning. So that gives you an out on posting that. But for Delta D, notification of property owners, I don't see an out for not notifying property owners via mail if it's a wide area.
Right.
Which we're talking about every major highway in the county.
So what you're talking about with C does specifically say small area. That's not a state law definition. That's within the county code, small area. And so it says that there within the state law, it does talk about the notices to particular individuals, and that's the case laws that I addressed in the AG opinion. And while ours doesn't say specifically one way or the other, I think it falls within the state law that I found that says this is kind of a system-wide change that doesn't require that manliness. It's not generally, I just say usually it's cost prohibitive, but it's not that you can't do it. I'm just saying, I don't believe that I found that requirement.
I just think if we're not gonna do that, then we're violating our own Oconee County Code of Ordinances, and they need to be changed.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think it's a violation of them, but I understand your comment.
If not, Mr. Kane, will you read Proclamation 2021-01?
Mr. Chair. The proclamation recognizing.
May I please ask for a vote?
Did we get the vote on the
No,
amendment?
sir, I did not have a vote on record.
We didn't vote?
Yeah, the vote to amend the agenda. I think I jumped in during the
We had
discussion.
a motion and a second, but we didn't.
Second, I seconded it.
All-
We never voted.
All in
We're still
favor?
in discussion.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. A proclamation recognizing February as Black History Month, whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to reflect on the history, teaching, and contributions by African Americans as leaders at the highest levels of military, business, education, government, the arts, sports, and religion. And whereas the national theme for this year's observance is the Black family representation, identity, and diversity. And whereas the Black family has been a topic of study in many disciplines, history, literature, the visual arts and film, sociology, anthropology, and social policy. And whereas its representation, identity, and diversity have been revered, stereotyped, and vilified from the days of slavery to modern times. And whereas the Black family knows no single location, as genetic ancestry searches testify to the spread of family members across states, nations, and continents. And whereas the complexity of the Black family can be seen in numerous debates over how to represent an atypical family from a historical perspective, as slave or free, as patriarchal or matriarchal, as single-headed or dual-headed household, as legal or common law, and Black or interracial. And whereas the family offers a rich tapestry of images for exploring the African American past and present, now therefore we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month in Oconee County, South Carolina, and urge all citizens to honor the history and achievements of Black Americans and to reflect on the identity, representation, and diversity of Black families across the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Kane.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
I do want to stand for that.
Public hearing for ordinance 2021-04. An ordinance requiring individuals to wear face coverings in certain facilities owned or operated by Oconee County, sunset provision included, and other matters related thereto. We had one person signed up for public hearing ordinance 2021-04, Nicole Wilson.
Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Nicole Wilson. I'm a citizen of Walhalla outside the city limits. Just want to thank you for giving me the time and the ability to talk to you today. I've been a licensed medical professional for over 25 years, well, about 18 years now, in over 35 different states. I can practice medicine. And I have a few issues with this mask ordinance that this state has all of a sudden, all the cities have come up with and decided that's the cure for COVID. It's not. Henry McMaster in June 26th of last year came out and said it's unconstitutional. It's a violation of people's rights. In August, the Walhalla City Council also deemed that it was not a way to cure this, and it was not in the best interest of the citizens. If you do not know, I want to let you know now that health disease is the #1 cause of death. In 2019 alone, 650,000 people died. What's the count for South Carolina in our deaths? Does anyone know? I can give you the last estimate. It was way less than that. Even the US was less than that. Second off, want to let you know that stroke, as well as calls from hypertension, diabetes, and vascular diseases have been causes of death. This is following the same pattern as what's causing some of these comorbidities with COVID. Now, I do know COVID is a novel disease, and that makes it scary for a lot of people. It makes it scary for the U.S. Surgeon General. It makes it scary for Dr. Anthony Fauci and all the other scientists that have come on record stating that this is a novel disease and that in February and March of 2020, we should not wear masks. He come on record, the U.S. Surgeon General said, do not go buy masks, they're ineffective. I myself have sit there and showed evidence of where the masks aren't effective. You could blow, with any of these masks you have on, you could blow a candle out. That's not stopping any virus. It's not stopping any disease. Second of all, I want to let you know that today went down to the city of Walhalla to pay my water bill. Was not able to get in, was not able to make any other arrangements, nor was I addressed by any member of our council or the state so far about how people are supposed to pay their water bills if they can't get into government offices. Not only without a mask, but period, we can't get in at all. Yeah, you could pay online, you could use a debit card, you could do all these other methods, but as last time I checked, cash was a legal tender in the U.S. And that's the way I prefer to pay. Now, I want to let you know that Governor Cuomo of New York, who I disagree with just about all the time, he's a Democrat and I don't like his policies, even admitted that the same deaths that we're seeing right now were the exact same numbers and same patterns statistically that followed the 2020 flu season in the spring, as well as what's happening right now. So that's not changed. Another issue, which y'all may have noticed, is that I am not wearing a mask. Came in without wearing a mask. I cannot wear a mask. It's a violation of my HIPAA rights to tell you why I cannot, but it causes me issues. If I had mask on for 5 minutes in this room, I guarantee I'll be on this floor passed out. That's a lawsuit for every one of y'all. That's not good, and I'm not here to sue anybody, and I think most of our residents agree with me on that. We're trying to come together with the best course of action to take with this, and it's not being adhered to with the HIPAA stuff. It's not being adhered to with people that have conditions, respiratory issues, like asthma, like bronchitis, that are already suffering anyway, to wear a mask. Second off, as a medical professional, I know the N95 respirator masks are the only ones that are effective, and they're only effective for a certain period of time. They work against viruses like tuberculosis, bacteria, and do not work against spores. People wearing face coverings cloth that could be anything, there's no scientific study on any of these masks. In 2005, 2008, 2015, and again in 2017, scientific journals, scholarly journals done by doctors and scientists have proven when trying to see different mask use for flu prevention if they were effective. They were not. This is a very tyrannical abuse of power, and I really hope that y'all would really think long and hard before y'all set a standard that's a precedent to come for other generations. Not for only my generation, but for your children, your grandchildren, and their children's generations. This can't happen. It's a direct violation of our Constitution. It doesn't say under the Constitution, under certain circumstances, do we apply this? Under certain conditions, do we say, okay, well, you get this right of speech, but you have to wear a mask, or you can do this, but you can't do that. I'm sorry, I may not like what house my neighbor has, but that's their ability to have that house. I didn't pay for it. Nobody in here has paid for any of my clothes. Nobody in here pays for my home. Nobody goes to work for me. It's not your choice to tell me that I have to wear a mask to go into a government building that I must go into to operate and do business. Otherwise, you're going to have to come out with some other plan. Children, also, just want to let you know, children are suffering from cavities, mouth diseases, as well as staphylococcus areas around their mouth. You can go check with any doctor, you can check with any dentist. They'll let you know and confirm that. The data and the science is online. I know that y'all are trying to do the best, I believe. I'd like to believe that everyone up here on this board is trying to look out for the best of the citizens, as am I, which is why I'm here today. I've been fighting this issue for over a year now, and to be honest, I'm personally tired of it. We have bigger, better things that we need to be focused our time on than arguing over whether a mask works or does not work. Go swab your mask, get a Petri dish. If any of you have a science teacher in your family, swab that mask that you're wearing right now. Go put that on that Petri dish and look and see what it looks like in 3 days' time. I guarantee you, because I have been pulled down for posting this, you're gonna see growths of at least 10 different types of bacteria that normally reside in our mouths. But they also normally get out, as does the carbon dioxide, because we normally don't have anything covering it. You know, we are one nation under God, and I don't know why or when God was removed. And I also don't know why we're so much more worried about COVID deaths than the lives of our children. The fact that I heard that our county, Oconee County, I moved here in 2004 because I was proud of this community. It was a God-fearing country, and I loved our county, and I loved it because I was from Atlanta. I've seen what happens when small towns try to overgrow themselves. It's horrible, let me tell you. But for this county to deny making Oconee County an abortion sanctuary city shows that the value is not on lives. It's not on saving lives through masks on COVID protection. Otherwise, you'd be more worried about the children's lives. Amen. Even though, and I want to quote just one thing, and then I'll be done. I'm not going to take up more time that's necessary. Psalms 23:4 says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. When did we stop believing in God and stop as a Bible Belt community in the state of South Carolina? Stop believing in God and the Word of God and take Him out of our U.S. Constitution and out of our offices and believe that we know more than He does? No, sir. That's all. Thank you.
Martha Steele.
Just to confirm, Ms. Steele, could you please state your name for the record when you begin? Just state your name for the record when you begin, please. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Martha Steele, and my husband and I reside in Kiowee 123 subdivision. And I want to thank you for granting me this opportunity to speak tonight for my husband and myself. First, we absolutely concur with Ordinance 2021-04, which would require individuals to wear face coverings and wear them correctly, covering both mouth and nose in Oconee County indoor facilities. Polly Price, Professor of Law, Emory University School of Law, and Patrick Diaz, law candidate at Emory School of Law, in their exposition titled Face Covering Requirements and the Constitution, published June 3rd, 2020, in the Expert Forum of the American Constitution Society, state that, quote, smoking bans are designed to protect the health of employees and patrons, not the smoker, and such ordinances have been routinely upheld as within the police power of the state. Cumulative evidence of harm to health from secondhand smoke readily supplies a national basis for state action. This same rationale applies to our present-day pandemic situation, as they further state that, quote, the CDC estimates that up to 35% of people infected with the coronavirus have no symptoms, yet they may unknowingly infect others when in close contact in enclosed spaces. Masks reduce the chance of infected people transmitting the respiratory droplets that contain the virus. State or local face covering requirements rely on the current medical consensus that not wearing a face covering or mask may endanger others, end quote. They continue to state that the Jacobson versus Massachusetts Supreme Court decision, quote, recognized that a state's duty to guard and protect the safety and health of the people includes the duty not to endanger others. Real liberty for all could not exist under the operation of a principle which recognizes the right of each individual person to use his own right, whether in respect to his person or his property, regardless of the injury that may be done to others. Please adopt that ordinance. Second, we definitely support the Council Planning Committee's Ordinance 2021-06, which would create design standards for 8 specified corridors in Oconee County. We in Oconee County are truly blessed to have such beautiful road corridors in our county, and we certainly should be dedicated to preserving their beauty and safety and their recreational and commercial opportunities. Throughout this ongoing pandemic, my husband and I have spent many hours driving and enjoying the many scenic and recreational opportunities along these corridors. We applaud the Planning Committee for creating standards to manage the growth along the corridors. Since we live along South Carolina Highway 130 corridor, we are especially concerned about the development along this highway and the safety of this highway and the other corridor highways with increased development. We are very grateful and fully support design standards that would regulate future building orientations, entrances, materials, and colors. Having such standards would ensure that our corridors keep their bucolic characteristics and would help keep these corridor roads safe. Please adopt this ordinance. We're also very grateful that the council is planning with Ordinance 2021-05 to establish standards for signage along the 8 specified corridors in Oconee County, because the wrong signage can definitely make a road more unattractive and especially more hazardous. Highway 130, for example, is an especially heavily traveled highway that takes people to and from Seneca to Duke Power and to and from all the subdivisions along the route northeast of Seneca on this side of Lake Kiowee. The fact that this highway is only 2 lanes makes for many traffic problems during heavy traffic periods. Any addition of signs that are close to the highway, very high, very large in square footage, have changeable messages, have moving or rotating messages, or are glaringly bright, are potentially distracting to drivers, and may also block needed line of sight. These should not be allowed. Again, my husband and I strongly support the adoption of a mask ordinance and design and signage standards for the specified corridors in Oconee County. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just before we close that hearing, to keep things orderly, if we could have folks just speak about the one public hearing that's open at a time. I didn't want to interrupt the citizen, but we can just carry over her comments for the minutes for 5 and 6. But as we go forward, if we could just speak to 05, period, close that public hearing, then open it up for 06. Thank you.
No one else has signed up for public hearing ordinance 2021-04. I closed public hearing ordinance 2021-04. Public hearing for ordinance 2021-05. An ordinance amending Chapter 32 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances in certain limited regards, in particulars only, regarding the establishment of lake corridor signage standards and other matters related thereto. Jim Cogner.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Codner, and I'm here to strongly support the lake sign ordinance. It will protect the natural beauty of the key corridors around the lake and contribute to the safety of those driving them. Sign height is reduced from 20 feet to 7 feet, and size is reduced from 75 square feet to 33 square feet. The number of signs is limited to 1 in front and 1 in the building. These are surely prominent enough to adequately identify a business on these roads. The ordinance also limits or prohibits blinking lights, smoke, mirrors, and moving signs. All this serves to avoid distractions on the curves and hills of these 2-lane roads. This ordinance is consistent with Destination Oconee and represents excellent guidance for well-planned growth. Future generations will thank you for your foresight in establishing these standards now so that they can continue to enjoy the unique experience that living in Oconee County provides. Please pass the lake sign ordinance as soon as you can. Thank you.
Sharon Hamilton.
Thank you, Chairman Elliott, and thank you all for your service. I strongly support the sign ordinance. I believe that by limiting the size and the movement, it will just add to public safety. Drivers are distracted enough as it is, many of them on their phones, maybe doing texting still. And it's a huge matter of safety to just have as few distractions as possible. There are also many, many visitors in our area now who don't know where they're going. So it's a distraction for them too. And as our roads get more and more congested because of out-of-towners, that just the less distractions, the better. So I strongly support the sign ordinance. Now I have comments for the design standard. Should I wait?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me if I can't pronounce your name right. Jack Machit?
I pronounced it McCoo, but there's no way of knowing that by the
McCoo.
way it's written.
Yes, sir.
You have to put your thumb over the CH. I'll be quite brief. Again, I want to support the sign ordinances. We're very lucky in this county in terms of the natural beauty. We didn't have to do that. God did that for us. And so our task is to take the stuff that we build and make that complementary. And since we're not as clever as he is, I think the only way you can do that is with a little bit of planning and a little bit of structure, some regulations. I don't think anywhere I've lived in a lot of different places, and I don't think anywhere a system that says just let everybody do what they want to do and somehow it'll all work out will really all work out. So I think there's something like more than 77,000 of us in this county now, and we can't all weigh in on everything, so that's why we elected you guys and you appointed people. And I think you're going to have to do this for us, and hopefully with some planning and with some structure, the part that we build will be complementary to the natural beauty we have here in this county. Thank you.
Here again, if I pronounce your name wrong, excuse me. John Egber? Egber?
He was the one
Fourth one. Agar, excuse me.
I think you.
I'm sorry, I didn't sign up for that. When I signed up, I intended to sign up for the design standard ordinance.
Okay.
That was a mistake.
David McMahon.
Good evening once again, gentlemen of the council, Mr. Root, Ms. Brock. I'm here to talk about the sign standards and ordinance, and
I thought I signed up when I came in the door to speak to the, both the sign ordinance and the design standard.
They may not be to you yet, sir.
Okay.
once again, thank y'all for allowing
Sorry,
me to
David.
speak. I was thinking, I was reminiscing as I was back there, Ms. Brock and I, Mr. Corbell, Ms. Jennings, Mr. Codner. It reminds me of 2010, when we had such a zoning debacle back then, and we had a overzealous council that was wanting to do things against some of the will of the people and had to go to court battles to do it, and looks like things are rearing its ugly head again. I think Mr. Root pretty much said it in attorney talk, what I was wanting to talk to about tonight. I've studied zoning, because of the past problems that I've had. And I don't think 32 is proper for this. I think 38, because in citizen-initiated zoning back in 2010, and as far as I know, it's still effective right now, many communities decided to initiate their zoning, and I believe you're actually making a change to zoning when you start enacting all these amendments. Amendment is change. So I think we're getting a little confused about where chapter 32 and 38 comes in. I agree with Mr. Root. I got thinking I was going to talk about it tonight, and I said, hey, he's talking about what I was wanting to talk about. I believe you're going to have to go to 38, which requires public hearings, public notices, because you're changing. You're changing something that's already been established in certain areas of this county, which is zoning. So if you change it, you're going to have public hearings, public notices. You're going to have to put it in the paper. You're going to have to do that. And plus, during the pandemic, when all we're doing is restricting people, I'm not sure just how much of a public hearing we can have right now. I mean, let's think about it. We're talking about masks. We're talking about wanting to restrict this and restrict that. I don't believe you can restrict the public when it comes to something that serious, so I believe it should be delayed. I also think about my little church. It was established in 1859. It's out on the end of Ebenezer Road. My family helped establish it back then, and we were just 3 weeks ago talking about spending the money to put a little neon sign up out there. Not a neon sign, what do you call them? They're rotating. They'll tell you what time Sunday school is, and you can change little notes that you want to put up there to advertise stuff. And I don't think people are going into the details about this ordinance or this alleged amendment. It says that in 05 that no resident should be, let me reword that. It says any sign that rotates or advertises, if it's within a resident's visual, is prohibited. Now, when it says that, is it grandfathered or is it strictly prohibited? It's a little confusing and a little conflicting right there. So, does my church need to abandon the sign if this ordinance is passed? What about Ebenezer Baptist Church, who's just recently put up a really nice sign that advertises their Sunday school and their churches? And is it prohibited or is it grandfathered? We could talk about grandfathering all night. I've been down that road. I found out that there's loopholes in that as well. So what's ahead for, what about the little church established in 1859 that's been here forever? Do they not have any type of rights? I believe that we need limited government in this county. We've been doing just fine for how many years? Since 1868, since Oconee was established. We've been doing just fine. And again, I want to reiterate, let's start helping the people of Oconee County. I would love to work with Mr. Kane to help the people in Utica, Mill Hill. When we're worried about a sign, I want to see documentation. Obviously, if you guys studied 05, you would have to have something to back you up about safety, because I've heard people mention safety. I think I tried to count, it's about 8 or 9 times we've worried about safety. What's the documentation where a sign has caused a wreck? I can tell you, as former law enforcement, I can tell you how many people have been killed by hitting a power pole. I can tell you documentation about how many people have went off in a ditch and lost control and lost their life. I don't hear anybody talking about ditches. That's dangerous. What about a curve in a road on 130, as someone spoke a little while ago? Why don't we talk about, maybe, I know that's a state issue, but I'm still bringing it up. There's some guardrails that should be put up in places. I'm just using examples because people have brought up at least 8 times safety. Is there any documentation where somebody has been killed or seriously injured because of a sign? If there is, I'm sure you guys probably have studied it because you're worried about safety. So is this to where we can interact with each other?
No, sir.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
So I would love to see, if I have to do a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, whatever, I'd love to see where you guys have studied where someone has died or has been injured by a sign. Now, I'm not against zoning. If somebody wants to zone their property, their neighborhood, whatever they want it to be, and have little pink houses run up and down the street, I don't care. It's none of my business. But don't tell me what I've got to do on my property.
That's right.
But that's my main concerns is, I would like, under the Freedom of Information Act request, which I will, if no one wants to freely give it to me, I will request that, of what documentation as to the safety regards of what happened, of signs hurting people. Now, if you want to do moderate sign standards, maybe that would be okay, I don't know. But to limit all these little particulars about signs, just like my little church, wanting to put a little sign up to advertise, we have Sunday school on 10 o'clock in the morning, and somebody might complain about it. Come on, let's get a little bit of common sense going on here. I'll be back to talk about 06 as well. Thank you.
Was there a gentleman who wanted to speak? Yes, sir. If you would state your name, please, sir.
Yeah, my name is Robert Royer, and I'm Vice President of Advocates for Quality Development. And I want to speak in support of 2021-05. Our organization represents thousands of Oconee County citizens and homeowners. And we're concerned about preserving the beauty of Oconee County, as well as supporting smartly managed growth. I'm sure all of us have driven down 123 in Easley, and you can see what happens when there are no standards. It's not very pretty. It's just a conglomeration of things. So the board and thousands of members of AQD strongly support this ordinance. Thank you.
We received several emails that I'll read into the record. This is from Phil Super. I'm speaking as a longtime member, excuse me, let me get some water. I am speaking as a longtime member of Oconee Beautiful Association, but not for the organization. I'm in favor of council approving signage and design standards ordinances. During my membership of Oconee County Scenic Highway Commission, we worked with Planning Department to develop a sign ordinance and believe that the sign ordinance 2021-05 is an appropriate expansion to further outdoor advertising control. During the past several years, rustic elegance facade guidelines were proposed and implemented for several area commercial buildings. Results have been received favorably, and approval of design standards ordinance 2021-06 will result in enhanced appearance of businesses in the county. I thank the Planning Department, Planning Commission, and County Council for their due diligence and positive actions being taken to manage growth in the county and for keeping Oconee beautiful. This is from Gary Owens. I'm very encouraged tonight as you take further action to adopt the new sign standards and design standards for Oconee County. Both of these standards are consistent with and supportive of Destination Oconee Committee and the Oconee County Comprehensive Plan. The new standards will help ensure that future growth is not only encouraged in Oconee County, but will also set some very basic future growth is, it will ensure that future growth is not only encouraged in Oconee County, but will also set some very basic standards that can be expected as the growth appears. Many counties around us, Greenville is the most noted, have similar standards in place to help ensure that growth in the county is well planned and beneficial to county businesses and residents. I believe that these two ordinances reflect the forward-thinking perspective of Oconee County Council and will be highly supported by all who understand the principles that you've outlined. I also believe strongly that implementing such fundamental standards will send a signal to future businesses that growing Oconee County, South Carolina is something you want to do. Strongly encourage all county council members to demonstrate your support and vote to affirm these ordinances on our collective behalf. An email from Cheryl Baldwin. Hello, my name is Cheryl, a small business owner. As a small business owner, that is my way of providing for my children, and having to worry about ordinances to come in Oconee County that would make it harder for me to run my business would just be insane. To let this go through, this would hurt all of us with small business that use this to provide for their family. This is already ordinances we have to have for business we do not need anymore. And this one's from Terry King. My name is Terry King, and I live in the Lake Corridor at 1632 Kiwi Lakeshore Drive. I'd like to speak in favor of the proposed signage ordinance and the Lake Corridor signage standards. Visual pollution is a real detriment to our community and works against the stated goals of the county plan. I'm an architect emeritus, trained in planning and design. I have owned and operated a successful architectural practice here in the state for over 45 years doing both commercial and residential projects. I am familiar with signage standards and their benefits they provide to community, and I've experienced firsthand the unfortunate visual pollution of uncontrolled signage. It is a scourge like the trash and debris we see beside our highways. Uncontrolled signage can be a distraction, a safety hazard, as well as spoiling beautiful views our county is privileged to have as a magnet for growth and tourism. I believe the proposed Lake Corridor signage standards are well thought out and will help maintain the desirable attractiveness of the area. I would encourage you to apply these Lake Corridor standards to the proposed corridors of the upcoming design standards as well. I believe this is a great tool to help maintain the attractiveness of the area and avoid some of the visual pollution that will otherwise occur. Please approve this standard. I have no other comments.
I do, sir. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I had a gentleman come in just a moment late. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Grant Keenan.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I was working and I couldn't be here earlier.
Mr. Keenan, please
Yes.
state your name for the record.
Oh, my name's Grant
Thank you, sir.
Keene.
Keene.
I'm a remodeler, handyman here in the county. And I'll apologize right off the bat, I'm a damn Yankee. I've been here 18 years. I've lived many places in this country, and this is the best place I have ever lived. I work for many of the damn Yankees on the lakes. And I ask them, of all the places you've lived, and they have lived all over the world, where is the best place you have ever lived? And almost without exception, they say right here, right here. Why is that? And why did they leave? Why did I leave? It's because we screwed it up. We screwed it up. We screwed it up with a bunch of things that cut in on people's freedom.
Amen.
Why did our forefathers start this country? They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor when they signed the Declaration of Independence. And many of them lost it all. It was for freedom. And this year that we have just had, oh my, we have seen, especially in the past 3 months, we have seen our freedoms taken from us and taken from us. And my whole life, I've seen nothing about my freedoms taken from me, let alone some of you that are older, let alone my father-in-law right here is 90 years old. He could tell you about freedoms taken that he's watched over the years. And they're taking it from us all the time. And I've never come here to say anything. But when I heard this, I thought, here we go. Now we're going to do it to ourselves. And I appreciate what this gentleman right here says about easily and going through and seeing the signs. I want it pretty. Oh, we live in such a beautiful place. I want it pretty, but it's not worth our freedoms.
Amen.
It is just not worth losing our freedoms. So please, gentlemen, think about this. I have had family members, one in particular died in Normandy trying to protect our freedoms. My brother fought in the Persian Gulf War, on and on and on. Every single war back to the Revolution, I have had family fight, and they're fighting for freedom. Let's not trample on their sacrifice by giving it away over a sign. Maybe, just maybe, if a sign is offensive, if a sign just gets in the way of the trees, maybe we who live on the lakes and have the money can go to the folks and say, is there a way that we can help? Do you have a sign that is pleasing and it meets the standards? Maybe if we dug in our pockets, we who have, can help those who are just trying to get by in their business, and we all can get along well, and we don't have to give up freedom to do it. I don't know what to say, and it goes right back. I know I missed the masks, but it goes right back to the masks, guys. It's the same thing. If you want to wear a mask, if you want to wear a hazmat suit, if you want to wear, an oxygen tank, I'm never going to give you any grief for it. Wear it. But for the same sake, let the people be that don't want to wear it. That's frustrating. It's just freedom. So thank you. Thank you for being patient with me.
Good job. Good job.
There are no other comments signed up, so I close public hearing ordinance 2021-05. Public hearing for ordinance 2021-06. An ordinance amending chapter 32 of the Tony County Code of Ordinances in certain limited regards and particulars only regarding the establishment of traffic corridor design standards and other matters related thereto. Randy Jones.
I'm Randy Jones, and I live up on Highway 11 corridor. I have had mixed information about this proposal. Didn't learn much about it. Don't feel like it was publicized real well. The gentleman here cleared up some stuff about being notified. I think I'd like to be notified when changes like this are going to come into my area where I live. Everybody don't stay on top of the local council's meetings. I don't, until it comes to the point to where you feel like something being slid through behind your back. And this is kind of the feeling that me, and I represent 30 family members that were afraid to come out here because of all times to hold a public hearing when there's a pandemic and people afraid to get out, that people are sick, and then an issue like this comes up, and it's a hot issue for everybody that lived out in the country that are used to doing the things they can do on their own at a rate that they can afford. And for this to come out, it was really disturbing. I don't do well at public speaking, but I felt like I needed to come out and represent my family that had lived here all their life, paid taxes. And it seems like all these issues are pushed by some special interest group that has vendetta against people living out in the country. If they don't live in a gated lake community where they have all the protections they need, they seem to want to come out and control my property.
Amen. That's right.
Tell me how I can live. You know, I don't go in their home areas and to disturb them, and I wish they'd stay out of mine.
Amen.
And I do want to appreciate the work that you do and listening to everybody's gripes and complaints. I know it's a hard job, but this is not a time to bring in people for a public hearing. You know, I come out here earlier today trying to figure out how to learn my way around, where I can make sure I was here. This place is locked up like Fort Knox during the day. There's one place to get in, and when you get in, there ain't nobody there. So, you know, I finally spoke for some folks. It was real good to help me. Got me to the point where I could be here. But I wasn't afraid to leave. I got here about 4 o'clock or before. Been sitting here waiting because I knew they were going to limit how many people could come in and actually speak or hear what was going on. So I've been here quite a few hours. But that's beside the point. I'm against zoning. I don't want people telling me how I have to live, how I can spend my money. I don't have a lot of money, but when I can upgrade, I do. You talk about grandfathering and all this stuff, and a lot of this I'm really ignorant to, as you can tell by listening to some of my statements. But if I got something falling down and I can repair it and fix it up to a better standard by spending $1,000, and if I have to go through the process of going through all these new improvements, and I gotta spend $10,000, it won't ever be improved at all. It'll stay there forever. If grandfathering in means that for me to improve or try to bring it up to a little better standard, that I'm gonna have to go to the extreme of spending way more than I can afford, then it will never happen. But thank you for your time. And like I say, I don't understand why anybody would have a public hearing during a pandemic when everything out here is locked down. You can't get no information, you can't find out nothing unless you know the right connections. And like I say, I represent some 30 family members that's afraid to come out here. And thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening.
Well, my name's Luke Moore and I'm from Fairplay, and when I come up here today, this is my first meeting. I came to try to learn more about what's going on here. I did not realize that I was signing up to talk. And I would have backed out except for some of the stuff I've heard. And I am 100% against the zoning. I'm 100% against it because I own a small portion of property. I paid for it, nobody else did. Nobody else has the right to tell me what to do on my property. If I'm within safety and I'm not a concern to people's health, then nobody, if they didn't pay for my stuff, shouldn't have no business telling me what to do on it.
Right. Amen.
Now, I was listening to this and I'm kind of ignorant to some of the stuff that's going on here. I understand that. But I also understand principle. And principle, you don't bully somebody else because some of these folks here comes in and says, well, I moved here to South Carolina and it's pretty and I'd like to keep it that way. I grew up here at the foot of the mountains towards Long Creek. I ain't never left Oconee County. And I want Oconee County to be pretty. It's mine. I mean, it's just as much mine as it is anybody's. But to sit here and tell a man that you're going to have to keep it pretty because I said so is a bunch of baloney. That ain't the way it goes. This is America.
Amen.
America is freedom. That's the one thing that makes America better than all these other places is our freedom.
Amen.
And every single thing that is passed here that tells somebody else you gotta restrict what you're doing to please us and other people, that's taking freedom. And what I heard a while ago was this is a Republican majority, and I'm hoping that's correct. But judging by some of the things I've heard about how these votes have gone here lately, it sounds like we got some Lindsey Grahams in here. Now, I love everybody, and I want everybody to do good, and I want everybody to be healthy, and I want everybody to be happy. But there's things that are right, there's things that are wrong. And wanting something to be good is wonderful. But pushing somebody down to make them do it is wrong.
Amen.
I'm just an old ignorant country boy. I don't know a lot about what's going on here, but I understand a little bit. And if it wasn't for that man right there, I wouldn't even know this was happening today. Where was it advertised? I mean, I'm sure it was, but where? There's a lot of us, a lot of men and women who think just like I do that don't even understand that this is going on. There's a lot of them that are scared to stand up talk in front of people just like me. I don't like standing up here and talking in front of these people. That crap makes you nervous. But either way, if somebody don't stand up and say something, these few people that own a half acre on the lake's gonna come up here and tell somebody like me that owns 11 and a half over here on the river how I gotta handle mine because their half acre, they think that I should be to their same standards. My land is nothing but trees. And my neighbor can decide to have a junkyard if he wants to. As long as he paid for it, it's his, that's his right as an American.
Amen.
Now, I'm gonna go, but I tell you what, I hope Republicans stand for smaller business, smaller government, and more for the people's rights. This is supposed to be a Republican majority from what I understand, and I sure hope we see that in the votes. Thank you.
Here again, excuse me if I'm saying your name wrong. Some of the ink in these pens are pretty bad. Alan Good? Neil.
How's everyone doing this evening?
Could you state your name, please?
It's Alan Neal. I was like my counterpart, Luke Moore. I'm from Fairplay, South Carolina. Very proud of Fairplay. And I wasn't going to speak either until I got a little more interested in what was going on here. And I want to say thank you, Matt Durham, also, for putting this out there where people could understand what's going on. And also, like this fine gentleman said, that I think it's crying shame that we're trying to pass this through during a pandemic. That's what it feels like. People's afraid to come out. They have no idea what's going on up here. A lot of people don't. And what I'm seeing is I make a motion or whatever it may be that we need a zone around the lake areas only. Let's raise taxes in those areas. If you live around the lake, let's raise taxes there. In my area, let's keep the agriculture growing. That's what feeds every one of us in here. Down there, my neighbor, if he's got a junkyard, that's fine. If he's got $1 million home, that's fine. We're proud of what we have. But he don't tell me what to do. I don't tell him what to do. So remember, we live in America. Let's be proud of it. And also, let's get to putting stuff more out for people to see. Let's, we all probably on Facebook here. Let's post stuff and let's get some awareness to these issues. Thank you for your time.
Gene Jennings.
Yes, say it louder.
Miss Jennings. Okay. Okay, Miss Jennings. You want to sit in my chair? Thank you.
My name is Jean Jennings, and as Mr. McMahon was saying earlier, we went through this zoning thing. And we got a lot of signatures. We went through all the procedures and everything. And I was given a map that was not in the book, the book that was set up by the county with the zonings and everything. This was done after we went through the first process with all the signatures and everything. And we were coming up for the second reading. And I went before the council at that time and told them what had happened. They changed we went for traditional rule. But then it was changed to, I don't have all that information with me, so I'm just, trying to think back. Anyway, we went before the council and told them what had happened. But they went ahead and approved that second reading. We went through the first reading, no problem. But from the first reading to the second reading that we come before the council, it was 8 months. And I think Mr. Codner was involved in this, getting this done, and Mr. Corbeil. So anyway, the council didn't listen on the second reading, and they went ahead and went forward. And then we went for the third reading, and they went, David?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you help me out?
Is it all right, my brother?
This new map, what was that changed to?
It was changed to a new zoning classification come up called ag residential.
Residential. So anyway, the new map was that, and then we went before the third, with the council with the third reading, and it was approved for us to do that when it wasn't even on in the zoning book when we first went and come before the council the first time. After that, they changed that from traditional rule to that. And I just don't like this zoning. I think that we ought to be able to do, if we pay our taxes on our property, we ought to be able to do what we want with it.
Amen.
And that's all.
Tom Buckridge.
Good evening. For the record, I am Tom Markovich, for those who may not know me. I have issues with this ordinance. Several, 3 primarily. As y'all know, I have done business. I've been in this county doing business building since 1977. And something that I've always been concerned about is the extreme expense that it costs here, and it's a higher cost than it costs in many other parts of this state. Maybe some of you all don't know. I was at one time the president of the State Home Builders Association. I have friends and builders from all over this state, and I can assure you it is much, much higher to build here than in many other places in the state. And so cost has always been a concern for me, and how people will be able to afford. And I'm talking about, I've always built very expensive, high-end homes around the lake, condominiums, things like that. But I'm concerned about the people like me who have to make a living wielding a hammer or some other thing, being able to afford a house, being able to afford a property. Or if I can't afford a house, being able to afford rent. I mean, this ordinance is going to affect multifamily properties. So what's it going to do to the rents for people who are trying to rent? You go and look at your comprehensive plan that was just passed and look at where we were in terms of the rents and how that's affecting the people of Will County County. I mean, that's right there. So cost is a big concern, and especially when it comes down to what I consider to be very trivial matters in terms of how somebody is going to create the ornamentation of a building. And we're in a stage right now today. Lumber hit the highest price it's ever hit, $994 a thousand. It has never been that high. In the last 10 months, it has gone up 309%. And we want to require people building new buildings to put in timber and do some of these other things that are going to affect the cost of these buildings, whether it be multifamily housing, whatever they may be. So cost is number one concern. And how it's going to impact the average citizen of the county. Two, I was glad to hear Mr. Root talk about the idea that perhaps this is more associated with zoning than it is Chapter 32, which is subdivision land development ordinance. I would argue that most of it's about zoning. Parts of it are about Chapter 32. Embedded in this ordinance is a little thing in there under traffic and safety that says that it wants the county to have the right to be able to affect the regulations on the construction of roads, on sidewalks, curb cuts, gutters, and etc. I'm very concerned about that. And I have heard over the years a number of people address the idea that the South Carolina Department of Transportation says, well, we try to work with counties in terms of their zoning and that sort of thing. I would say this. There's a tremendous amount of case law in this state where the Department of Transportation has gone in and staff has decided to do certain things on their own. And the court said, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. That you did not have these certain rights. I mean, they are allowed to act within the statutes as they're written. They're allowed to act within the regulations as they're written. But for Oconee to come up with a set of rules that would override what comes to us through the state legislative process is totally outside the realm of home rule. Home rule is a delegated authority. You're only allowed to rule on those things that have been delegated to you. When you begin to, in my opinion, supersede that and step into areas and arenas that are outside of what is really truly within the county's jurisdiction, I think you've gone a little bit too far. As y'all also know, I have spent a tremendous amount of time. I worked on a comprehensive plan. I worked on it for 2 years before the legislature ever passed it. So for over 27 years, I've been working with this document. I actually had parts amended in it at the request of this county when I was the president of the South Carolina Home Builders Association. They needed some changes, asked me to help, I helped. I don't have a problem with comprehensive planning. I think it's wise, I think it's smart. But what I have a problem with is when sometimes there's parts of it that are taken out of context and used in ways that I feel like subverts the process instead of actually making it better. And so, and I can say this, in studying this document for the last 27 years, I have never once read in there anywhere that would allow somebody, it's about designing communities. It's about designing subdivisions. It's about designing that sort of thing. It is not about the design of structure. There is nothing in that document. Even when it talks about appearances, it's talking about the appearances of communities and how that is impacted. It's not talking about a single structure. It talks about construction. The construction ramifications in the codes in Title 6, Chapter 29, are about construction types. Comes out of the building code. It's about the fire code. We have all these different regulations, and that's what the construction types are about. It's not about going out and telling somebody, oh, by the way, I don't like the way your building looks. We think it would look this way, look a lot nicer. Anyway, so I really don't see where the power lies in that document that says, yeah, we're going to tell you what kind of buildings you're going to build. Now, lastly, and this is by no means lesser than, in fact, I think it's probably the biggest thing. And the primary reason that I'm against this. This particular ordinance is using, and I'm using the word use very specifically, it's using the right-of-ways of this state to impact and try to create a regulation. And I would argue that there's a considerable amount of case law on this also when it comes to the right-of-ways and what can be done with them. Attorney General's had a lot to say about it. The right-of-ways in this state are set up to basically allow somebody the right of passage. And when we begin to tweak and change those rights that are associated with that piece of property, in which most of them are actually just easements. Now, in order to know for sure, Mr. Root will agree with this, I'm sure, you have to go into the exact language of each exact property to understand that particular easement, because they can all be different. You can have some easements that are one way on one piece of property. You can have easements that are different on a different piece of property. But nonetheless, in all cases, these roads were set up for public transportation, for the public to be able to pass and go wherever. Now, they've been used for many other things. They've been used for utilities. And there's a tremendous amount of case law on utilities and how they utilize these properties. And in most cases, some of the fights that have been fought, it comes down to whether or not you're adding an additional servitude to that property. And in my estimation, there's no question that this is going to create a greater burden on anybody who already is attached to that easement and is unquestionably adding an additional servitude. That is unquestionably a taking. There's no ifs, ands, and now. It would have to go to the courts, the facts would have to come out, And the courts would have to look at whether or not they think it's truly an additional servitude. But I don't see how you go from saying, oh, yeah, we're glad to let you pass, and then that person turns around, oh, thank you for letting me pass, but I don't like your house. Change it. That's pretty remarkable, if you ask me. I had to kind of laugh a couple of months ago. We were having a conversation about good neighbor policies. Well, to me, a good neighbor policy is if somebody was going to let me pass on their property, give me the right to pass on their property, I'm the last one that's going to turn around to them and say, oh, by the way, I don't like your house. You need to change it. Or your building. So I think this ordinance has some big issues. And I don't think it's anywhere close to even being ready. I don't know that it ever will, because in my estimation, this is unquestionably a taking. You are in fact using the right-of-ways of this state to impose a burden on the people who are adjacent to it. Thank you.
Here again, forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, I'm having a hard time reading it. Bill Gilter?
Bill Gilster. Most people say Glister. But I'm Bill Gilster. I live in Normandy Shores, and I thank you for the opportunity of talking to you today. My topic is basically the same topic that you talked a lot about, was the comprehensive plan. That what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about the relationship of and I'll call it the ordinances, which are the design standards. I just call them ordinances and kind of group them together. And as you well are aware, what the purpose of the comprehensive plan is. And I think my argument to you is that I don't think we use it enough. There's a lot of words in there that would guide us in terms of our decision-making about these ordinances and other things as well. And I think that document sits on the shelf and doesn't get used enough. For example, with regard to the ordinances we're talking about, are you aware that in the comprehensive plan it says that it's calling for corridor standards for safety, aesthetics to reduce inappropriate and incompatible development while respecting private property rights? Now that's a very general statement, but that's the crux of what we're talking about today, is trying to sort through what do I have a right to do myself, what does somebody else have a right to tell me what to do. The comprehensive plan screams out for saying, help me decide what that is. I know that that's an issue. People said that's an issue. I need a resolution to that. It also asks for the enhancement of visual aesthetic character of the county by using tools like code enforcement, corridor overlays, review boards, ordinances, performance standards. Most of those are missing, and I think that's the issue, is that the comp plan is telling us that those are issues, those have to be filled. We need something specific here rather than just general words on a comprehensive plan, but nothing ever happens. If we were just to focus some of our efforts on the priorities that the comp plan says, I think that would bring us down to a road that would be good for all of us to experience. It's been suggested that these ordinances kind of came out of nowhere and that they were really just top-down forced zoning and that they represent government overreach. Nothing could be further from the truth. They're really bottom-up plans. They're people plans. They're doing the will of the people for all of us. Is it really government overreach just to accomplish what the comprehensive plan says? If it states what the goal is and we come up with ways to accomplish that goal and we meet that goal, that's good. That's not top-down planning. That's people planning. That's implementing what the people said. And that guideline is in the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Robert Royer.
Again, I'm Robert Royer, and I'm the Vice President of Advocates for Quality Development. And I want to speak in support of the ordinance to establish building and design standards and limits. Advocates for Quality Development represents thousands of Oconee County citizens and homeowners. And we continue to be concerned about preserving the beauty of Oconee County and supporting smart managed growth. And again, I want to point out, if you drive down 123 through Easley, you see what happens when you have no standards. You have just a hodgepodge of things. Some of the key elements of the ordinance are to avoid buildings with blank facades facing the corridor, encouraging pedestrian-friendly entrances, using design elements of visual diversity to make it beautiful. And all projects would require South Carolina Department of Transportation to verify traffic and safety standards are followed. The board and thousands of members of AQD strongly support both this ordinance and the previous one, and encourage their passage. Thank you.
Martha Steele. Okay. You're going to excuse me if I can't read it. John? Ray?
John Steele, I'm not speaking.
Yeah, I think he says John Steele, but he's not speaking.
Okay, John Steele, and he's not speaking. Peter Barnes?
Yes, sir. I'm Peter Barnes, and I'm president of the Kiwi Subdivision Association. And I'm here to address Ordinance 2021-06, Article 6, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations. And since we're in a subdivision, we're affected. Kiwi Lake, west side of Highway 130, between Old Clemson Highway and where it intersects with 183, which is up near Kiwi 3, there are 12 subdivisions on the lakeside. We are not concerned about development. In fact, we encourage it. What we're concerned with is the right-hand side going north on 130, which is mostly undeveloped, that it have some kind of clear development plan, which is what you're proposing here. What we don't want to see is half of 130 looking like 123 between Seneca and the hospital. I would like to say that the people I've spoken to, including some of the board members at other subdivisions, welcomed enthusiastically by the homeowners in these subdivisions, in that there is planning for reasonable development like AQD is talking about along this corridor, and for that matter, all the other corridors that are being considered. For example, in the Kuyui subdivision, our covenants and bylaws are very clear in architectural, landscaping, and maintenance standards are adhered to so that the beauty of the subdivisions and the investment made by the homeowners is maintained. Oconee County's ordinance establishing reasonable expectations, and we think they are reasonable, for future development of the Highway 130 corridor and the other important county corridors is to be applauded. And we fully support the county in these important endeavors. Thank you.
Terry King?
Thank you. I'm Terry Keene, and I live in the corridor in Kiwi 2. I'm an architect emeritus with over 50 years' experience in dealing with design development and building codes here in South Carolina. Design standards go a long way in helping maintain the values and general attractiveness of an area. And if things go according to plan, this area is going to grow like mad in the next few years in the future. They help avoid visual pollution, they help improve property values and the tax base of the county. I think this is a great start in helping to maintain the attractiveness of the area and avoid some of the ugly mistakes that have recently been constructed or proposed. I've heard some complaints that this proposal will severely increase costs of development. I did a quick analysis spreadsheet of the issue and conclude, after looking at Maine's cost book, that the impact is minimal at best. I would say it's in less than 0.5% of the cost of typical commercial development. And I've been glad to work with the staff on fleshing out those numbers if you'd like me to. Thank you very much.
June White. June White.
We have people in the hall.
I'm gonna verify, but they
Okay.
should be able to hear us.
Mr. Chairman, can I run the restroom real quick?
Sure.
I know you're late for the time. You did not find the June White?
I find June White. Should we proceed or wait for Mr. Davis to come back?
Okay. Did you make a motion for a recess? Is that what you're?
No, he just excused
Just a
himself.
second. All right, just pause. So we're just pausing for a second?
Yes.
Okay, we're pausing for a moment. If there are any empty chairs and you guys can find them, please find them. Especially you two ladies over here, if I'd like to just move one over. I know y'all been standing quite a while.
Switch up. I was gonna say,
Are you Mr. Lee? Are you ready?
yeah.
You can both come if you want.
We have to wait.
All right, so you want Dave to have you? And we have a change. When we get to Mr. Luce, he wants to back. Right. Is Luce signed up with him? Oh, that came this time. No, but you skip it. Oh, David went to.
There's an email. Comes up off.
Right, and then Miss Davis. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mike White. Mike White. Mike White. Paul Cabil.
Good evening, members of council. I appreciate this opportunity to speak in support of Ordinance 2021-06. My name is Paul Corbeil. I've been in your seats, and I understand and I fully appreciate the challenges you face, okay, in balancing different citizen interests. The good news is, in my opinion, this ordinance before you, you don't need to make a choice between perceived good and bad. Ordinance 2021 dealing with design standards is a win-win for all of our families, both today and especially looking forward. Design standards and signage are important details how to intelligently plan for longer-term community development. This ordinance also respects, and this is very important, differences between different areas of Oconee County. Highway 11, 123, 28, 130 are broken down between different neighborhoods, different communities, each with different design standards proposed. If we do it once, we need to do it right. And you can avoid duplicating the scene on 123 that you recently saw, that you know very well, that you recently saw on the front page of the local journal. This photo shows us, okay, what happens when we have haphazard, undisciplined development. Do we want to see more of this? No, we don't. Of course we don't. We can do better and we must do better. County staff, our citizens, and outside professionals that you've engaged to guide us have worked hard in recent years, okay, to develop a vision of what we want to be and what we must be going forward over the next several decades. Again, we must do it once and do it right. I'd ask you to please respect the work of these citizens, staff, and professionals and support their recommendations. We've got so much to be proud of in terms of our natural beauty. Let's protect it, and for all of our property owners, protect the values of their investments. Thank you very much.
Wade Cobb.
My name is Wade Cobb, and I'm speaking on behalf of the ordinance of 2021-06. I want to start off by, with a phrase that we all know and love. It's the land of the free because of the brave. And I believe that being a landowner, that's your freedom. That land is your freedom. You wouldn't want me coming on your place and telling you what to do with your stuff. You wouldn't want me doing the same thing to you, nor you. I'm not here to tell people that, this land ain't beautiful. It is. But if you don't like what somebody else has done with their property, please feel free to go buy it from them and do what you want to with it. But if you don't have the money to go and buy their land, don't push laws and these fine print quotes and things like that to tell them what they can and cannot do on their own property. Going back to the nuclear station, look at how many jobs that's created for this county. You look at how many people are employed right there at that nuclear station. You look at how much money they put back in to this county. I don't see that money coming out of these big subdivisions. I don't see these people spending their money here. If that is what they want, the signage, the beautification, if you want to be able to tell somebody what to do with their property, go live in a big city where they have these ordinances already in place. Do not come to somewhere that is beautiful, agriculturally based county and try to dismantle all that to make it to what you moved away from to start with.
Amen.
That's exactly right.
So, and on another quote, I hope I don't offend anybody by what I'm wearing. Some of us actually have to work. And I don't want to step on any toes or anything like that. Also, I'm 26 years old. I'm 26 years old, and I hope and pray that I get to live a long life. And I hope to see this county grow, but see it grow for the better. Not for just what one side wants. I would love more than anything to drive through Oconee County and see farmers out there plowing. That's beautiful to me. It's not, sometimes growth in the wrong direction is a bad thing. And I honestly believe that's where this is headed. Because if you were building a house and you had to pass all these committees, I've worked in subdivisions my whole entire life. How would you feel if I came out and put staples and small signs on your trees and told you this tree right here has to stay? I don't care, you might have to move your house to a different location on your lot, but this tree has to stay. How would you like that? You wouldn't like that at all, would you? So, all I'm asking is do not move in here from somewhere else and try to push this junk down our throat. All right?
Amen.
You want to talk about proper signage and safety? Let's talk about how many cars pull out in front of dump trucks right there at the Kiwi Keys maintenance entrance. You want to talk about how many wrecks have almost happened right there? Because careless people that think they own this whole entire county want to pull out in front of people. Do you want to talk about Oconee Nuclear Station, but yet you're stinking up half of the highway right there on the side of the road? You want people just to close their nose when they drive through there? If you want us to close our nose when we drive through there, how about closing your eyes when you drive by our place?
Amen.
I'm sorry if I got riled up or out of hand, but that's all I had to say. And I hope that y'all make the right decision, because these people that are here fighting for this not to get pushed on them are the same people that are paying y'all salaries. So I would hope and pray that you make the right decisions for the people of Oconee County. Thank you.
Excuse me, David Oliver.
Good evening. My name is Dr. David Oliver, and I've been a veterinarian in Oconee since 1979. We have 5 family businesses now in the county, two of which are centrally located on Highway 11. And we got no notice whatsoever of this meeting tonight. As of yet, there's been no notification of any of these ordinances that we've received through the mail or otherwise, just through Facebook. I believe as business owners that entrepreneurs are wise enough to make the decisions that need to be made on their own. I encourage all people to consider entrepreneurship, and it's my hope that government does not overreach in this instance and make it more difficult for people to fulfill their hopes being small business owners. Who are we changing? Are we changing for a small group of individuals? Are we losing focus on letting government overreach and decide for people? We need to keep business owners in mind and let the individual business owners decide on the buildings that they need to suit their needs. The design, the colors, the shape, they need to decide on their own. They're smart enough to be in small business which is hard on its own. Small business person already carry the heavy burden of the county, state and federal taxation, and other regulations. Why make it more difficult or complicated to be a business owner in Oconee County? Who would know best if not for the business owner themselves? These guidelines would be a choice in a housing environment, but maybe not well suited for a business owner in Oconee County. The color, the description, you know, we just need to back down and limit the government on the small businessman. Thank you.
David McMahon.
My name's David McMahon, and Lord help me, where do I begin? One thing I do know tonight, my suspicions about chapter 32 and 38, I had suspicions about it. Mr. Root clarified a few things, and Mr. Markovich, who I've known for years and respect his knowledge and wisdom, I will now, I'm pretty much convinced, I will no longer call this an amendment. I will call it chapter 38 zoning designation. That's what I will call it tonight, because I believe that's what it is. So I don't want to say that if you guys vote on this tonight that that's illegal or anything. That's a harsh word. But I believe your vote will be null and void. I believe it will be challenged. So I think you should go back and check on it a little bit. Ms. Jennings earlier, goodness, I can't talk in this thing. Ms. Jennings earlier, she's went through a rough time with zoning. She was speaking about a government overreach back in 2010. Mr. Kane, I think you remember some of that. I left you out a little while ago. AQD president was in here a little while ago. I don't see him anymore. Mr. Cardner, I think he's AQD. During that time period, AQD was instrumental in meeting with other council members and making backdoor plans and stuff. It's all FOIA and it's all there, emails and everything. I'm not going to go into that again. I'm just trying to remind this council that governmental overreach is not what America's about. I live in a pretty nice home. I'm proud of it. I take offense if somebody didn't like the way I painted it. And I promise you, to any of these folks out here that's for 2106, I will not come into their neighborhood and tell them that their house is ugly. I will not tell them that their house is too small. I will not tell them that their grass isn't cut high enough. That property right's right to have his color of this house. Why would I do that? This is not what the Constitution of the United States said, and I'll give you a little bit of a history, which we all know. I'm just going to bring it up to light. The Pilgrims, the first, of course, the Native Americans was the first Americans, but the Pilgrims come along second. Do you remember the story where the Indians had to teach the Pilgrims how to grow corn? Well, it was because it was not the United States back then, but these Pilgrims, it was their idea that everybody in that Pilgrim community should all contribute to a one big garden. They should all come and hoe the garden, fertilize the garden, water the garden, and all of them had to do it, and in the end, all of them would get a equal portion of the food. I don't want to bore anybody, but I'm trying to make a point here. In the end, the Pilgrims almost starved to death because the Native Americans come in and shared food with them, because that was the first form of socialism. It was a test of socialism back then, and we are a capitalistic country, and we don't think socialism is the way to go in this country because we know it's failed time and time again. When we start telling everybody that we should all have pink houses, or we should all have a concrete driveway instead of an asphalt driveway because my neighbor says that don't look good. What is that telling us as a society? Is my house better than yours? And therefore you gotta be exactly the way I am. If you not, I'm gonna put codes and laws to strike you down, to keep you from having what you want in life. And again, right here in the design standards, oh, I've heard that word safety again tonight. I wanted to make that point out. Safety in the 06 element. Right here, much more confirms what I'm saying. Right down here on design standards, it says the permitting and applications. That's section H. It says, in addition to all other applicable permits, submittal requirements, the following documentation is required prior to a zoning permit being issued. This is a zoning classification. This tonight, you'll be voting on something that's null and void if you vote to approve this. Go ahead. I remember back in 2010, the majority council, they went ahead. They found out they were wrong in the end. So, I don't know how much more I can talk that some of these folks out here said to you. Somebody said, we want to do this right. We'll do it right. Go back and look at this. I'd like to see where safety and the general welfare of people, and one more time I'm going to say, if you really want to help people in Oconee County for the general safety and welfare, please help Mr. Kane do something about the Mill Hill where those folks can live in peace, and maybe they can have a little bit of ordinances or whatever. People told me I'm against zoning. If you want to live in a neighborhood that's zoned, my goodness, that's the American way, do it. Just don't tell me that my house is not suitable. That's the most offensive thing I've ever heard of in my life. My property's worth a lot, I'm proud of my property. Please don't come on my property and tell me my house is not painted correctly. Very offensive. It's not the government's place to do that. It's, somebody mentioned earlier about these Democrat-run big cities where some of the folks have come to move here and get away from. That's exactly what they've done. They've implemented laws and ordinances and zoning to where folks up there couldn't live because of the high taxes. And this, by the way, it says it all right here. Zoning permits and requirements is going to cost you money. So let's go ahead and get the average guy out here that's working 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week. Let's go ahead and take a little bit more money out of him because we don't like the way your house looks. So let's go down there at the Mill Hill. I'll be glad to join y'all. And let's start working on some projects to help people down there. I know one place that the county of Oconee owns that we could go down there and take a bulldozer. One phone call, Miss Brock could issue roads department in half a day, make a nice little place down there for people to look at and be proud of. I'll help you. If you're worried about the safety and general welfare of people, right there it is. There's people down there that scares to walk the streets because they're afraid they're going to get robbed. And I'm not exaggerating. I know. I've talked to these people. I interacted with them. Why are we ignoring them? That's been going on for years. Every one of you knew it. Mr. Elliott, I don't know how long you've lived in this county, but I'm telling you, I've been here all my life, and I've dealt with some of the worst down there. We're talking about safety. Why are we worried about the color of my house when there's a good chance somebody might be mugged or robbed tonight on the Mill Hill? Is that not the oath that y'all took to protect the citizens of Oconee County? I know I took that oath in my previous job, and I tried to do the best I could. No, a tourist is not probably going to drive down Paget Street. No, probably not. You got people down there that have lived here all their life. They deserve some respect, and they deserve dignity. They deserve to live in a home that they can feel safe at night. So scrap 2106, I believe it's gonna be null and void anyway. I think it's 38, it's not 32. I'm pretty sure. I'm more confident than ever. Am I right, Mr. Markovich? Waste your time voting on it tonight. It's sad. Don't be an overzealous government, overzealous county council. Don't do that. Be more fair to the people. Let's go down to the Mill Hill next week and let's start working on that project. They need it. The folks on the lake, they'll be all right for a while. We'll worry about them later. Let's give some other people in this county a chance to be proud to live in Oconee because Oconee County Council helped them out. Thank you.
Here again, excuse me, the ink is very light. Jamie Carter? State your name, please.
I'm Jamie Carver, and I live on Pickett's Highway, right below where the Mountain View Steak and Seafood is at Burger. And my wife's family's owned that property there, 53 acres, for 115 years. You know, I sold my nice house, quit working 120 hours a week, got 4 kids. Decided I'm gonna put them all in a camper, gonna build a house, gonna build a shop. That's my dream. Now here I am being told that we're gonna zone this. You're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do that. Why? It's not y'all's job to tell me what I can and can't do.
Amen.
You know? I have. Anybody that knows me will tell you. I work well over 120 hours a week. And to have a dream and be told that I can't do it, now ain't none of y'all gonna tell me that. I work too hard. My wife's family worked too hard. It's wrong. You know, some of these people don't like it. Turn your head or go back where you came from. And if it hadn't been for seeing it on Facebook, nobody would have ever even known what was going on here.
That's right. Amen.
I think it's wrong. You know, there's lots of other stuff going on in this county that needs to be addressed other than zoning stuff. You know, I ain't ashamed to say it. I left a dealership making $30 an hour, go to work for Oconee County at the motor pool for $17 an hour. And I could care less if I walk out of here tonight and I go back to work down there. It don't matter to me. I'll make it. But it's not fair to do all this to all these people. You know? Everybody's worked hard. Everybody pays their taxes around here. They should do what they want to do. And in fact, a lot of stuff that people have to do, you know, go get a permit to put a power pole in, jump through hoops. Stupid. I mean, it's ridiculous at what people have to go through. Hard-working people. I think y'all should change the way y'all think about some stuff. Because I know, for one, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And this county, y'all spend a hell of a lot of money on shit. When I say shit, you know, y'all could do a better job. Some of this money that y'all waste on some stuff could be spent cleaning up the mill hills. You know, put forth more into these missing people that's going missing, these kids. That's just my opinion. If it steps on toes, then maybe they need to be stepped on. That's all I got to say.
We're gonna have to get better pens.
I promise we will, I'm sorry.
I'll see if you can figure that one out. Civil rights.
Looks like a Michael, but I can't, a short
Michael,
last name.
we're not sure.
Maybe.
Did you sign up?
Take it, you ain't gonna claim it.
close to the bottom of the page?
Huh?
Did you sign close to the, like, bottom third of the page? That's probably
Yes.
him then.
My name's Michael Owens. I live in this county, was born here. Didn't know anything about this till some of the posts you put on. My wife made me aware of it a few days ago. I don't get on social media very much unless it's Marketplace or something like that, but I appreciate you putting that out there. I don't know, it seemed to me like most stuff that's dishonest or is not gonna fly in an area, or stealing, anything else. Most of that's people slide it in. They try to hide it. From what I've seen just over the last few days, researching how people vote and looking back at the records here, seems like you got pretty much a divide right here and over. It seems like, not making any accusation or anything, but it almost seems like there's some wheels being greased or something, because it seems like an awful lot of this mess just wants to be slid through and passed off. Well, I tell you, I'm 100% dead against this. At one point in time, I have probably owned or still own property on nearly every one of these roads. Some of that's how I make my living, my wife and I. For you to come in here and tell me, and most of the folks, unfortunately, that I would like to kind of address with some of this, you're free to roam our county, ride around and look at everything. Open the gates to your subdivisions. Let everybody that pays taxes in this county ride through and look at the way you live.
Amen.
I rode through some of your subdivisions behind your gates, got permission to be in there. Seemed to me like a lot of your money and your time, effort would be better spent fixing up some of the dilapidated properties and some of the rundown stuff that's in your own neighborhoods, before you go around telling everybody else what they can or can't do on the property that we bought. Like I said, I'm not a great speaker or anything like that, but I just want you to understand, I am 110%, and I believe that if you sit down, if you took the time to get out of your offices and ride around a little bit and talk to the people that's in your areas, find out what they want, not what a handful of people that piss and moan and gripe and squeak a wheel and raise can. You always heard the saying, squeaky wheel gets the grease. I hope that enough of this gets out where there's a whole lot more squeaking going on, where y'all know where the grease needs to be applied. Like I said, that's all I got to say. I appreciate what you do. I do appreciate, I know this takes a lot of time from your families, but this too, it takes time from our families too, worrying about what y'all are going to try to slide through that would have been voted on tonight if from my understanding, this was the third reading and it was going to be voted on, may still be voted on. Don't you know, we're dead set against it, and you got to live in these counties. And how y'all vote on things, whether you like it or not, affects how y'all's businesses can be run and how we, the people, are going to be patrons of your businesses. And you need to remember that. Thank you very much.
Another one that's hard to read with the ink. Is it all? You seem to be a good interpreter.
Linda Spring.
Linda Lovely. Linda Lovely.
Oh, okay.
I have some prepared remarks. Again, I am Linda Lovely, and I am speaking in support of Ordinance 2021-06. But I'd like to address a couple of the things that have come up in the other speakers' comments. It seems like there's a lot of misunderstandings about what the design standards are. They don't apply to agricultural activities. They don't apply to any single-family homes. They don't apply to any grandfathered commercial buildings. They only apply to commercial growth that we know that is on the way in high-traffic corridors. These design standards do not in any way dictate how a property may be used or developed. So it's not saying that somebody can't do anything on their land. It's just saying, giving some design standards for commercial buildings. We've had talk about we needed some documentation. I would say the same thing to Mr. Markowitz, that basically the documentation and what the extra costs would be, I think were addressed by the architect, Terry Keene, that basically said it would be less than 1% of the property value. In talking about some of the safety concerns, they're real. One of them I know in the ordinance is about parking, and it says that you need to have sufficient parking for the people that are coming to your commercial establishment. And if you don't, those cars and vehicles are going to be parked on other people's properties and cause problems for getting down a street, for emergency vehicles, and there are a lot of things that do affect safety. The people that end up in ditches, I'll go back to the sign ordinance, what caused them to go into the ditch? I think a lot of times you will find that it was a distraction. Now, sometimes it's somebody drinking coffee when they shouldn't be, but sometimes it's a sign that's flashing and gets their attention and puts them into a bad situation. I basically have, my husband and I moved to Oconee County in 2001. Natural beauty and agricultural heritage were important draws, as they continue to be for many visitors who decide to call Oconee County home. First impressions do matter. In the past 2 decades, we've witnessed tremendous growth, and we realize the pace is going to continue and get even faster. So let's make it smart growth, growth that improves Oconee without sacrificing our county's many unique appeals. And this does not limit, again, uses on any of these properties, nor does it affect single-family homes, nor does it affect agriculture in any way. Let's be smart and try to improve the county for everyone. Thank you.
Jim Cogner.
Mr. Chairman and Council, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jim Codner, and I'm here to support the Design Standard Ordinance. It will provide a firm foundation to ensure that our key corridors are inviting, attractive, and safe for visitors, businesses, and residents alike. Let's get this in place now so that future generations don't say, if only someone had thought of this problem years ago. I can't believe these requirements are more expensive than other common design treatments for commercial buildings. When compared to the total cost of establishing a new business, the impact will be negligible. Indeed, business will welcome these standards because they can be confident that neighboring businesses will adhere to the same standards and protect their investment. If anything, property values will increase over time. Business development will not be stifled. A prime need for written standards goes back to when council was negotiating with the Hartwell Village developers on what their buildings would look like. They wanted to be consistent with Destination Oconee, but that document has no firm guidelines on what that entails. Council made a stab at it, and we got what we got, including the hotel. More recently, we have tried to influence the appearance of Dollar General stores to better fit in with their surroundings. But that has been difficult to impossible without written standards. This ordinance solves that problem. Thank you very much for advancing this ordinance. It represents a great contribution toward preserving the unique living experience that is Oconee County. Please pass it into law as soon as you can. Our kids and grandkids will thank you for your foresight. Thank you for your time.
Doug Hendon.
Doug Hendon.
Hendon.
Doug.
Hendon, excuse me.
Tell us my handwriting being bad, I apologize.
State your name, please, since I stated it wrong.
My name's Douglas Wayne Hedden Jr. I'm a retired United States Marine. Gentlemen, you passed this, you're wrong. Dead wrong. There ain't no other way around it. And I'm gonna, kind of got a loop thrown on me just a minute ago with the last speaker before me. I'm gonna read something to you. Okay? Listen to this right here. Ordinance 2021-06. Section 32-212 definitions, okay? Add the following. Mixed-use development means a development on one or more develops or proposed to developed in one or more phases, which includes a mixture of residential classifications. Single family. What's a single family? Can you answer that for me? I'm asking.
Single-family home.
We're not allowed during public hearing to have a conversation.
Oh, okay, so in other words, y'all get paid, but y'all can't talk to people that pay you, okay?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, we just said there's not a back and forth and the folks have a full opportunity to speak.
Single family and multiple families, etc. A mixture of residential and non-residential uses and/or a mixture of residential and non-residential uses. Single family is a home. I don't care how you word it. Now I'm gonna move on from that, gentlemen. Right here, section 38-8.1. Paragraph C. And I'm not very good at reading, so bear with me. I did go to Walhalla Natives, okay? All right. Posting. Pursuant to the provisions of the South Carolina Code of Laws, signs, notings, and rezonings for the small area method shall be posted on or adjacent to the affected parcels along public throughways in the event less than 10 affected parcels are so situated as to share frontage along the same public thoroughfare. A sign shall be located on each parcel, okay? Provided no two signs are closer than 100 feet of each other. In the event 10 or more affected parcels are so situated as to share frontage along the same public thoroughfare or any number of parcels located off the public thoroughfare, signs shall be posted as close as is particularly in manner sufficient to ensure due public notice. At a minimum, signs shall be posted at the beginning and the end of any continuous shared public frontage with no more than 1 mile between signs. At least one sign shall be visible from all directions in each intersection adjacent to the parcel for which rezoning is proposed. The rezoning of land owned by the United States, the state of South Carolina, public universal sites, I guess, or the county shall be posted at any major identifying sign stating the identification of the property. In the event that no signs are present, state posting guidelines shall be followed. For all other rezoning, state posting guidelines shall be followed. Here's D. Notification of property owners. A written notice containing all pertinent information related to any public hearing shall be sent by first-class mail to the registered owner of each affected parcel at least 15 days prior to the event. For the purpose of this section, the name and address of the owner of the parcel shall be that listed on the tax records maintained by the county tax assessor. Now, gentlemen, I call this zoning. And I'm gonna look every one of you in the eye and tell you this. Okay? This ain't been done. Hasn't been done. And I'm gonna tell you why it hasn't been done, in my opinion. Because you knew if you done it, you knew about 90% of the county would be back around this building out here today. Now, I'm not a politically correct man, and I don't plan to be. But when it smells like you know what, it usually is you know what. Okay? And them back doors can be open and closed anytime they want. Now, if you don't understand what I'm saying, I can break it down for you. Now, I'm going to move on here, okay? right here. Traffic corridor design standards and other matters related thereof. I'm just gonna hit the highlights. Okay. Let me get to this right here. Give me 1 second, please. I do not want to mess this up, so I'm just going back and do it again. All right. This section F, design standards 1. All right. All primary building entrances shall be, I guess that word's accentuated through architectural treatments that enhance pedestrian orientation, such as recessed entrances, protruding entrances, canopies, overhangs, etc. And what does that tell me as a taxpayer that's making it day to day trying to raise her family? You know what that tells me? That tells me right there, I got to hire an architect just to put up a shop and make a small business that I can't afford. So in other words, you're shutting the little man down, letting the big man grease your palm and move on. That's what you're doing if you pass this. Now, here's B. Any portion of a building facing a public right-of-way that exceeds 25 feet in length shall incorporate windows or architectural design elements to break up the expanse of the wall and add visibility diversity. Example elements include, but are not limited to, windows, doors, lightings, material changes, articulated sculptures, walls, surfaces, or shadow lines, vertical accents, texture change, color change, commission murals by a mural. Now, if I want a mural put up on my building that says, hey, this is Heddon's small engine repair, guess what I got to do? Guess what I got to do, gentlemen? I got to go out and hire a professional artist. That don't make no sense. That does not make no sense. None. This don't make no sense. So make sure I get this right here. Number 3. Materials not permitted to be incorporated into a building adjacent public or private right-of-ways. It's silly. Painted concrete block. So I can't put up a concrete block building and paint it real nice, put a mural on it. Because 1, you ain't gonna allow it. 2, if I could afford the building, I can't afford the dang man to come up there to paint the mural. I spent my life savings on a building. Think about what you're doing here. Every one of you. 2, no asphalt shingles. Who's going to pay for my metal roof then? If I've got 15 bundles of shingles I've saved from a job, who's going to pay for it? Materials that are encouraged to be used are timber framing or structural elements, natural, artificial, stone foundations, so on and so forth. Okay, we can get all into that, but that's really irrelevant. I think I've made my point on some of this. Please bear with me a second. All primary building entrances shall be accentuated through architectural treatment that enhances pedestrian orientation, such as entrances, protruding entrances, canopies. I'm reading this again on a different part. The front faucet may be broken up using columns and entrance protocol. I guess that's a word. Roof overhangs are like to avoid the appearance of the monolithic slab. Okay. I can keep on going on with this. I think you know where I'm going with it. But I want to back up something else here. If you give me 1 second. Now, maybe you're not allowed to answer this for me. If you ain't allowed to speak, raise your hand if you choose to or not. Which district is Highway 11 in? Who's over that?
Covers about 3 districts.
Okay. Which district, who's over, Highway 28?
Oh, yeah.
Who's over Highway 59? Well, I mean, you're getting paid to, you could at least raise your hand and tell us who's over it. Who's over Highway 76? Who's over Highway 123? It's amazing how meek people get when they get called out. Who's over Highway 130? Who's over Highway 183? Oh, thank you, sir. One man was I'm not trying to make a mockery of nobody. I'm making a point. The point is, if you're over any one of these throughways, and if what I say has hurt your feelings or make you mad, I tell you like I used to tell my Marines, apparently you're guilty of it. Why? Why? If you're over one of these highways I have called out, why have you not, like another person said, got out of your office, off your rump? I'll use this man right here for example, as he raised his hands. Highway 28. Why didn't he go to the community club at Hillbilly Day, post signs, I want to have a meeting about this with my constituents? That's your job. Why didn't somebody over Highway 59 find a fire station, community center, church, I mean, any structure that's dry and you can stay warm in, and have a meeting with your constituents on this? Same with Highway 123, same with Highway 130, same with Highway 183. Why? Apparently you're not doing your job. In my opinion, the reason you didn't do this or didn't think of it, because you knew the backlash you'd get from 90% of this county. That's truth right there in my wholehearted feelings about this. Tell you, this wouldn't fly in the Marine Corps, I promise you that. I'll make sure I haven't missed nothing. I hope I've got my point across, but there is one other thing I do want to add. You give me 1 second, please. I just want to reiterate this. Single family. What you're going to do if you pass this ludicrous thing. When my son's 8, when he's 18, this is only going to grow and spread. It's like a cancer. That's what it is. He's not going to be able to afford to go out there and put a block building up because he can't afford the architect. He can't afford the man to draw his little sign up. He can't afford to put his canopy up without some stamp from a man that's got a college degree down the road and he's trying to make a living. And there's nothing wrong with a college degree. I got 2 brothers that got them. But they got common sense. This is nothing more than a QE key, the Cliffs, Falcons Lair, ETC, HOA, Homeowners Association overreach. This is all it is.
That's right.
Nothing else. You move to this county and you don't like what this county looks like outside your gates, keep your rump inside your gates.
Go back.
It's simple. It's not hard. 90% of the people in this county are not those living on that lake. They're hardworking Americans that are trying to make ends meet. And all you want to do is put another burden on them. I told people when they started building codes in this county years ago, you watch what's going to happen. I can show you some of the finest houses ever built, and there was a building code involved. And also show you some that fell in. But most people are going to spend their money on a business are not going to put junk up because junk don't attract people. Like I said, this is nothing more than the QE Keys, the Cliffs, Falcons Lair, so on and so forth, ETC, homeowners association overreach. If I wanted to live in a gated community, when I retired from the Marine Corps in 2011, I'd have moved my rear end in one. This is also a county government overreach onto private-owned personal property and citizens. Now, if you think gentlemen, use common sense. Because I promise you, if you don't, and you start hurting a normal working man in this county, there'll be repercussions at election time. I promise you. And I promise you, if you'll start every time you have one of these meetings, instead of trying to swoop it in and swoop it out, I'm not the only one that feels this way. If you start putting it out there where the public knows about it, instead of, oh, this morning I seen it in the Journal. Holy hell, it's in the Journal. I seen some of the comments some of y'all made. I'm not gonna call nobody out. You need to start going to your districts. You need to start having meetings with your constituents and see what they want. I don't care what people with money want. I care what people in the county as a general want. I don't want Oconee County to look like a gated community riding up the Highlands. I don't want Oconee County to look like a gated community going to Salem. I don't want it look like a gated community going up past Bad Creek. That destroys the integrity and the character of this whole county. It destroys it. It destroys what that man right there has got on his property and what he takes pride in. It destroys what that lady right there has got on her property she takes pride in. It destroys what that lady right there has her house she takes pride in. It destroys their individuality as an American and their freedom. And sir, I know you're a lawyer. Appreciate your studying the law. Don't try to finagle this fancy word. Just tell the people the way it is. And that's what y'all need to start doing. Start meeting with your constituents. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that the faces you're looking at today do what's right for every one of y'all, not just a select few with money in gated communities.
That's right.
Thank you for your time.
John Eckert.
John Agar, Indian Oaks, and I'm here representing myself. You know, as I've listened through the night, I've been here since the beginning, and for some reason it seems as though this has turned into a referendum on personal rights. And I don't think that that's what this particular standard was designed to address. I think this was designed primarily to address commercial ventures that are moving into the community, people that are moving in from outside of Coney County and building in Coney County and putting up different types of developments, multi-use, what have you, and putting it up in a manner that is detriment to the overall community. And I think that, from my perspective, I sympathize with people with their individual rights. I want my individual rights as well. But I don't see anything in this particular ordinance that will impinge on anybody's real rights.
Yeah.
What it's going to do, it's going to improve the county. And right now, a great deal of time and effort has been spent on the part of the council, the administration, and the stakeholders to ensure the beauty and quality of Lake Kiowee. Now I think it's time to expand that effort to improve the general appearance of our major thoroughfares, excuse me, and avoid eyesores like the True Hotel at Hartwell Village. I think that if we continue down the road that we're going, I think we're going to have a lot more buildings that are going to be built along these thoroughfares, and they're going to represent things like the True Hotel, which has, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it's so bad that people don't even want to stay there. With a major investment at Oconee Industrial and Technology Park, it makes good sense that we improve the overall appearance of Oconee County's major arteries to attract more recreational visitors and world-class industry along with their employees. This will help to grow the community in the county in a representative way. It's important to note that the design standard ordinance is not intended to place barriers or restrictions like zoning, but generally improve the overall aesthetics of the county. Please adopt this ordinance, and thank you.
We received several written comments. I'll read them out.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep,
if
yes.
I may interrupt you, I'm so sorry. There's one other speaker.
Okay.
Ms. Davis. And the only reason I remember is that I made a note and I wrote terribly. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry.
problem.
Ms. Davis, when you get up, state your name for the record, please. Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Patsy Davis, and I want to thank y'all for your service to the county. It's all in how you see it. If you are riding down the road and you see a billboard, and you're fussing about that billboard blocking the view of the trees, and you can't see the trees all around it because you're fussing about the billboard, one, you're missing the beauty of the trees. You're also not realizing that, one, that billboard is providing a lot of jobs that people need. One, the sign company has employees that put the sign up. The business that is having the sign company that put the sign up, they have employees. So that billboard is providing a lot of jobs. So you can look at it and say, oh, it just spoils the beauty, when the beauty is all around it, plus the billboards are nice. I enjoy reading the billboards, you know, here's your sign that lets me know what's going on. I'm weird, that's all right. Take it up with God, He made me. So it's how you see it. Got that issue. One suggestion is, does the county have money to put the agenda in the paper every week or however often y'all meet? Because that would solve a lot of this problem. That way everybody knows about it, knows what's going on. Put the agenda in the paper. The next thing, thank you guys. Major thoroughfares, I think, is the word they're using, and they change over time. So right now you might be talking about a few roads, but sometime in the future those roads may change because of how businesses move and all that kind of stuff. So right now you just think it's these roads, but it could be pick a road in the county. So you can't just think that it's gonna be these roads. It also depends on the business you're talking about, as to what a major thoroughfare is. Because if you're talking about the drug business, then Paget Street is the major thoroughfare. If you're talking about businesses, depends on which business, type business you're talking about. Because if you're talking about tourism, they like the lakes and all that, so the roads to the lakes. So it all comes down to how you look at it. But I think his name is McMahon, was talking about the Mill Hill. I live on Mill Hill. I don't. I do, but I don't. The tornado took my house out. And after the tornado, I got started feeding people. And it's kind of kept changing and growing. And somewhere, I feed them 7 days a week. And I started doing a community dinner once a month. And once a month, I go around and I take a flyer on every mailbox, inviting them to this dinner. And then the people that helps me, it has organized it into a charity thing. And we named it No Judgment Here, Utica Community Outreach. Because zoning is judgment. We're making a lot of progress because we don't judge the people on the Mill Hill we're helping. We're going in love, and we're saying, how can we help you? Mr. Paul and Mr. Julian has been down there many days. Miss Brock's been down there, a bunch of them, helping. So, if you don't judge and say, you got to do it this way, and by the way, if y'all pass zoning, it better be in there that purple is the house color, because that's my house color. But we ain't went saying, you got to do it this way, because that ain't the way you're going to reach anybody. If you go saying, how can I help you? It looks like you got a problem. How can I help you? And show love, that's what's going to make a change. And nobody has to be told, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way, because that don't fly. Not judging. Y'all been down there, y'all seen the difference. People has got into rehab. They've got into our daily rest. One lady, she's 50, 60 something years old. I talked to her the other day. She'd been on the streets. I fed her I don't know how many times. And she said, I finally started believing I was somebody. That's because I didn't judge her. I helped. If somebody's got a messy property, go see what's wrong. They may be sick. That's why their property's messy. You know, it's not laws that gets it done. That creates resentment. I can tell you, I do not like to be told what to do. But love changes me and gets me to do it. You can pass zoning and you're gonna pay for it. I don't mean that as a threat. It don't work. All that stuff that guy was reading, but people can't afford it. That's what I'm saying. It don't pay and all this kind of stuff. Whatever word I used a minute ago, it just don't work. But going and extending the hand works, and saying, let me help you. Not judging. Be love to somebody. If it's an ugly business, people ain't gonna go there.
Amen.
I've seen it. I drive all over the upstate and Georgia and everything, going and get stuff so I can feed people. The businesses, it's ugly. I don't see cars there. If they put the money in, they gonna make it pretty. there's a word for it. It's gonna work itself out, is my simple way, because if they ain't gonna put the money into it, people ain't going. So, y'all don't understand, I am definitely against zoning. Thank y'all.
I have received several written comments, so I'll read those. Oconee County is blessed with great natural beauty. The proposed Oconee County design standards will complement the natural beauty of the area by encouraging building architecture, which enhances the appearance of the area along major traffic corridors. Excuse me, that was from Sue Williams. The next email is from Lisa Shirley. This vote by county council should not take place during a pandemic when the residents of Oconee County are trying to stay safe and follow guidelines to stop the spread of COVID and cannot attend the meetings to voice our opinion. Appears to be illegal attempt to push through a zoning ordinance without allowing residents to voice their opinion. This needs to go to a ballot vote by residents of Oconee County, not to be decided by county council during a pandemic. I think this could end up in the courts with the residents of Oconee County filing suit against the county of Oconee County Council for trying to push this through during a pandemic. This should be postponed. The next email is from Scott Shirley. I write this in opposition to the county council's upcoming decision to enforce certain restrictions on certain highways, including Highway 11, where I have residence. My representative, who I believe is one of the gated communities along Lake Kiwi, seeks to implement restrictions that I feel are unfair and unwanted for those who either cannot afford or choose to live in communities that have strict HOA codes and regulations. It's bad enough that we now have the administration in Washington that seeks to strip away many of our rights and personal freedoms, that now we have those on county council who want to add restrictions and regulations that are keeping those who live along Lake Kiwi. I know at least two council members are in opposition to this ordinance and encourage others to follow suit. I feel that the citizenry of those who are already adversely affected should be allowed to vote in a referendum on this matter. Thank you for allowing me to address this matter. This is from Tammy Cordana. Concerning the meeting for this evening, I'm against the ordinance that is being voted on this evening. I understand the theory behind trying to make our highways look better in the county and trying to bring more money into the county, but I do not believe this is the best way to go about getting this done. There are so many buildings already built that need attention and fixing up, and this ordinance will not help with that. It will only make it difficult for new buildings. I believe a better way would start with what we already have and help those that do not have the ability for one reason or another to give facelift to those buildings that are already on those roads. Help those that are already struggling to keep running, but they really have. Once the current buildings are either cleared up or given a facelift is complete and the roads are fixed, then look into continuing to beautify the county. If the old buildings are helped and look nice, it would encourage those persons building new buildings to build a construction that will look nice. Let's fix what we already have before regulating and restricting in the future. This is from Harvey and Julie Clark. As Oconee County residents for over 2 decades, we would like to express our support for design standards on Ordinance 2021-06. We love where we live, and we've seen tremendous growth in population and associated construction in the county. We believe this growth will continue and that the proposed ordinance is well thought out and appropriate. It would be of great benefit to all by helping maintain the appeal of our area for not only current residents, but also others looking to relocate here for decades to come. I close ordinance 2021-06.
Excuse me, I have comments. I thought it was on the list. What's your name, please? Sharon Hamilton. Ms. Hamilton, would you like to step forward, speak?
Yes, just briefly. I'm sorry, but
Please
I
state your name
said I
for the
could come
record,
back
Ms.
and talk to
Hamilton. Thank you.
2006. My name is Sharon Hamilton. I live in Bountyland, and I just would like to be on the record that I do support the design standards. Growth is going to come. I think it's in everybody's best interest to be smart growth. This is not affecting that many people who have existing businesses. It's only businesses that are expanding or new construction, and I like to phrase it as curb appeal. These design standards give just some ideas for when new businesses come in or businesses are expanding to just improve the look, to make it like you would want to do your own home, to have curb appeal, which will increase the value of your property and will encourage more businesses to come in because they will feel confident that there are some design standards that their business, if they come in, will be protected also. So I just wanted to keep it brief, but thank you for letting me make these comments.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have one more request verbally from behind me. I don't know your name, sir.
Cameron Collins.
Come on, step up.
Say your name again, please.
Cameron Collins. And going back to this lady, what she just said, new businesses. Well, I just bought property on Highway 11, thinking about starting a business. Maybe a small engine shop or whatever I want. But if you pass this, I'm not gonna have the money to do nothing. I mean, I'm in the hole, $25,000 for 2 acres of land I just bought on Highway 11. And that, it's still nothing but hurting a small man, small businessman. I mean, there'd be a lot less accidents on the road if people pay attention where they're driving instead of on other people's property. I'm just saying. I'm done.
I now close ordinance 2021-06. We amended the agenda at the first of the meeting to discuss ordinance 2021-06, not to include a formal reading, to include instructing the planning commission to review, report, and make recommendations on the ordinance and develop estimated cost upcharge to meet standards. Planning commission shall issue its report and recommendation within 30 days. Is there a motion for this discussion? I mean, is it a motion to discuss this ordinance? No, we don't need a motion.
It would be an ordinance or a motion. What you do is a motion to instruct the planning commission to review, report on, and issue a recommendation in relation to 2021-06 and to develop an estimated cost upcharges to meet the standards, and that the planning commission will respond back within 30 days. That's the motion. Once you have a first and a second, during discussion, y'all can respond to public comments or talk about this ordinance. There's no third reading or second reading on the ordinance tonight.
Is there a motion to approve as stated by Mr.
So moved. We need a second to discuss it. Correct, Mr. Root?
Correct.
I'll second and discuss it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I really wanted to talk back to a lot of people who came up here and spoke today, but it takes a lot of patience to be accused of a lot of things that I assure you are not correct and not true. We cannot talk back. It's not within our, we can't respond to people when they're making a public hearing. It's just, that's the rules of this, the council proceedings. I'm not in favor of this ordinance. I'm also not in favor of 05. And I want y'all to hear me out on why I was in favor of this. Because I didn't grow up in Oconee County, but I've lived in South Carolina, born and raised here my whole life. I moved to Oconee County by choice. I grew up in the Midlands, went to law school in Charleston, and picked Oconee County as a place to build my practice, and thankfully met my wife here, and we have a little son. He'll be 2 in May. This is a beautiful, beautiful place. And those of you who grew up here, count yourself lucky. I grew up in Chapin. It has been overrun with development. All through the Midlands, it's been overrun with development. What I am concerned about, and again, I'm opposed to this ordinance because I've heard enough of your comments. And I tend to agree based on the fact that we're in a pandemic. We're beat down by the economic situation we're all in. And that's enough for me. But what I do fear in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's a lot more people out there that are moving to our community. And they're going to bring a lot of money. And they're already doing it. And they're going to build whatever they think will bring in the most people and the most money to their business. And they do not care about standards necessarily. It may be, they may do this rustic elegance thing. They may say, you know what, I want to do something else. I want to do a big old glass thing, 40 stories high, Highway 11, so people can look out all over the upstate. Or they want to do, anything else. Put your mind to it. Whatever you can imagine, people can do. And I fear that that will change the character of this community forever. And then folks is going to say, I don't really know if I want to live here anymore. And I want to protect the natural beauty, but I'm sensitive to what y'all are saying. I'm a small business owner myself. And I understand this past year has been brutal. It has been tough in many ways, especially us that went through the tornado. But I think in a situation where I see, there were many comments on both sides, and I've listened to a lot of people over the past several weeks and several months talking about the things that we do up here. It's not an easy decision because we're trying to plan 20, 30 years out. And there are people who, regardless of what y'all may think, those folks who live on the lakes do invest in our community. They do spend a lot of money here, and they pay an awful lot in taxes too. But that does not make them or their voice any more valuable than anybody else's. I'm sensitive to that. I just want to say I appreciate everybody for coming up here. I know it is tough to get up in front of people and talk, especially about when you're emotional and you feel like your livelihood may be on the line or whatever. But I do want to just thank everyone for their comments, and I appreciate everybody who lives on the lake who wants to see it stay the same. But also, when it comes down to affecting somebody's ability to run their business, do things the way they want to do, the tie has got to go to the small business owner, and I'm convinced of that tonight. So thank you.
Any other discussion?
Speak. So it is hard not to, reply back to people when you're sitting here. But, some of the proponents for this, harped on the comprehensive plan for Destination Oconee. So this wasn't top down, it came from the bottom up. Well, yes, it all stems from Destination Oconee, which kind of started in Oconee by Choice 2028 plan. And all that fed into the comprehensive plan. And out of a county of nearly 80,000 people, there was 500 attendees at these planning sessions. That's not 500 people, as I recall, it's attendances at each one. So it's some people multiple times. And you can kind of guess where the majority of them came from, right? And what this comprehensive plan is, it's a special interest document that we're using to drive policy in this county that doesn't align with the vast majority of the citizens in the county. And like I said, very few people attended because the working people in this county, they don't have time to go to these workshops. But what you did have time to do is you had time to show up on election day and elect us to represent you. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to represent the people to the county government, not the county government to the people. We're here to represent y'all, not sit here and force out some document and drive the whole policy from that. And I'm thankful that the members sat up here and listened. I'm thankful for the comments that Mr. Kane just said. Thank you, that's all.
Any other comments? I want to thank everybody for coming. We need to hear from the public. We need to understand what the public wants. Thank you. Yes. All in favor of the motion?
Just a reminder, the motion was just to instruct the planning commission to review, report, and recommend.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm against it. I know Mr. Hart's against it. Mr. Kane now says he's against it. Parliamentary now, how do we kill it?
Okay, so it's not properly, it's not properly in front of the council tonight. There's no emergency that you could amend the agenda to take final action, and so that would be final action to kill it, to vote against it. So it's gonna have to come back. You can recall it from the planning commission. That's where it sits right now. So motion to recall, then it'll come back for second reading at our next hearing. So at that point, which is our next meeting, March the 2nd, at that point, you could, vote it up or down on second. So, this motion, pass or fail, y'all take the vote on that, you could still make the motion to recall it from the planning commission to have second reading next time.
Motion to approve? All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Make a motion to recall from planning.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, will you give a clarification, or Mr. Reed, will you give a clarification? I don't mean that actually needs to come from, clarification of when that will be come up.
When it'll be coming up?
The second reading will be coming up.
Yeah, so for everybody's here, they just recalled the ordinance has been with the planning commission for them to have a public hearing on it, and they were gonna have a public hearing on the 1st, right? They recalled it back to council now, so council will have it on the agenda for second reading on our next meeting, which is March the 2nd. So second, we have to have 3 readings and a public hearing before anything's final. So it sounds like you've gauged where their, intentions are. But second reading, they can take action for second reading on the next meeting we have, which is March 2nd. Yeah, it's not really an action to kill, they'll just vote it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you explaining it to us.
Thank you. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you.
We take a short recess, Mr.
We'll take a short break.
Motion? Do we need a motion? You need a by acclamation, 5-minute recess.
We need to make a motion, 5-minute, that would be 9.
Your comment. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're listening.
It's a public hearing, you can do whatever you want.
I see both sides.
I see what
to be
you're
honest.
talking about.
What?
I also see that when you started closing, I've worked in Highlands, Cash, or South. I've been in all of them, developments, every one of them. They talk about the stuff they got.
Sir, I'm sorry, we're supposed to go back on at 9:15, but I'll be happy to talk with you afterward.
Well, I'm fixing it.
You've been up since
Your
5
stuff
o'clock
can
in
get
the morning.
lost. Your
Wait,
stuff can get
will
lost.
you grab that door? Thank you.
Is there a motion to reconvene?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First reading of the following ordinance. Ordinance 2021-07, an ordinance increasing the,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I believe we're on 2021-04.
Oh, excuse me.
Third reading.
Yeah, I'm moving too fast.
That's okay.
We're with you, sir.
Third reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance requiring individuals to wear face coverings in certain facilities owned or operated by Coney County, sunset provision included, and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
Ms. Brock,
Yes, sir.
how many employees have we had out throughout this pandemic due to COVID?
Our total number is 182 at various times. At one time, in a single period of time, we've had 63 out at one time, which is approximately 12.5% of our workforce.
I think, Mr. Chair, it's very important that we protect our employees and the general public. And I appreciate the comments that were mentioned earlier today on this, during this hearing. But I think it's clear from what's the federal agency that does mask study? The CDC, as well as DHEC. This is only within county facilities, and it is, I think the science is overwhelming that masks, I'm wearing an N95 mask and that thing. I believe Dr. Fauci, whether or not anybody else does. I think early on they were wrong in saying masks don't help. They lied to the American public and did that to try to preserve inventory. That was wrong. But I do think that it's important that we do whatever we can. I hate wearing a mask as much as anybody. I promise you, my glasses fog up. I can't see. It's hard to breathe. It's hard to talk. But I have not gotten COVID yet, and because I don't want to give it to my wife and I don't want to give it to our little son. And I'm willing to make that sacrifice to protect my family and the people who work in our facilities. And I would hope that people would be willing to do the same, unless they have a legitimate medical reason that they cannot, in which case, Mr. Root, I believe that they're exempted from this ordinance. So,
Yes, sir.
I'm in favor of requiring masks until, God willing, this pandemic will be over. Masks were required during the Spanish flu in 1919 throughout this country. There is precedent for this. It is not unconstitutional. It's a pain in the butt, yes. But I'm doing this to protect y'all if I've got it. And if you've got it, I'd ask that you protect our workers and the general public here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Man, all the COVID people was out. How many was out with COVID versus out for COVID protocol because maybe they was in close contact with somebody who was suspected of having it or in a household with somebody?
Due to HIPAA, I don't know the exact number of people that were actually infected other than the employee themselves, and we had 108.
Okay.
Now, there may have been a family member that was infected, and of course, due to HIPAA, I can't inquire as to someone else's medical status.
So we've been wearing masks, so there's obviously something we're not doing right, Because
Well,
the
I think
mask
putting it
can
over
prevent-
your nose is a good step.
Well, I'm also 6 feet away from him, so it doesn't, distance is a thing. So maybe it's county vehicle use policy. Do we have too many people in a vehicle at a time?
We
Right, you need
did,
to look at
if I may,
everything.
Mr. Durham, we did address that earlier this spring. We did take some vehicles out of the surplus, especially for road department building codes, where we typically have, like if we had an apprentice in training that was riding with someone that was doing the training, We have separated every single person in every single department except for 2 at PRT, both of which had previously had COVID before and were deemed to be less of a risk. Now, we do have a mask policy in the vehicles, and of course, we do our best to adhere to those policies, but I cannot state with 100% certainty that masks were worn 100% of the time.
Per the CDC, even if a mask is worn and you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes now, you know, it keeps changing, then it counts as close contact regardless of a mask. And then you talk about science, right? So the pore size of a surgical mask is 20 to 100 microns. The size of the virus is 0.1 microns, which is 200 to 1,000 times smaller. So it's pretty much equivalent of putting up a chain link fence and expecting to keep mosquitoes out of your yard. So it's a comprehensive approach to want to protect employees. I get it, right? But the mask simply ain't the solution. And if people want to wear masks, I'm good with it. Mr. Kane wants to wear 5 masks. That's his choice, right? But it again comes down to free will, right? If a business wants to require somebody to wear a mask, they have that. They can do it because people have a choice to do business with them or not. If Ms. Brock, which wasn't required ordinance, wanted to require employees to wear a mask, she could do it. And the employees would have a choice. Do they want to be employed by Oconee County or not? But unfortunately, we don't have a choice to do business with government. But also, most people met with a locked door here, so it's kind of a moot point anyway. But y'all know where I stand on it. I'll vote no for the 3rd time, so I'll be by myself.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Third reading of ordinance 20.
Nope.
Hmm?
Is that not the one that we were?
Yeah, these are. No, this is 05, this is the signs.
I don't even know where I'm at.
No, you're good.
I got this one right this time.
This is right in front of you.
Okay, third reading of ordinance 2021-05. An ordinance amending chapter 32 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances in certain limited regards and particulars only regarding the establishment of Lake Carter sign standards and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, just before y'all pass this, if this is what you're doing, or I don't know what you're doing, but just a reminder that my recommendation was to refer to the Planning Commission for review. Recommendation and report. You don't have to do that, obviously.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, first reading of the following ordinance, ordinance 2021-07. An ordinance increasing the not-to-exceed tax rate for Kiwi Fire Tax District from 14.5 mils to 17.5 mils, consistent with Article 6 of Oconee County Ordinance 2003-12, which established the Kiwi Fire Tax District in the Kiwi Fire Commission. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Mr. Chief Brandon Shirley, why don't you come up and take any questions that we might have?
He's been sitting too long.
Apologize, I stove up.
That's okay. I'm open to any questions you may have, if you've got any questions.
Mrs. Shirley, or Chief Shirley, excuse me.
You're good.
You stated that before the meeting, you mentioned that y'all had some public meetings or a public meeting regarding this.
Correct.
And was there any opposition to this tax increase?
No, there has been no opposition to the tax increase. We have, it's been on our agenda since probably July or so of last year. Every meeting since then, we've discussed it, and then we had a public meeting in January. As I was sharing with you earlier before the meeting, there's about 5 people that I've run into, talked to in the community that were in full support. That actually came out to approach to say they were in support. Otherwise, I think people realize that we are very responsible with our funds. It's been 17 years since we've had any increase in our millage, and we've just reached a point where we've got to, the growth of the community is outgrowing our budget. So appreciate you guys' support.
Thank you.
I've reviewed the cash flow for the next couple of years with the chief and with the commission. As the chief said, he's done a super job of communicating to all the folks in the communities that it impacts. To remind the public that this does not affect any taxpayer outside of the Kiwi Fire District. Any other discussion? Any questions for the chief? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
First and final reading of the following resolution. A resolution authorizing the acceptance of approximately 1.43 acres of real property from the school district of Oconee County and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? First and final reading of Resolution 2021-03, a resolution authorizing Oconee County to enter into a lease agreement with the City of Westminster whereby the county will continue to lease approximately 76 acres of real property constituting a portion of the Charles Ram County Park and other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion regarding action items. Request for removal of library board member for non-attendance. Catherine Campbell Smith was appointed in January 2019. Ms. Smith attended the January and May meetings in 2019 and has not attended the meetings since that time. This member has also not responded to repeated attempts to reach by email and a letter sent by U.S. mail inquiring about this member's intent to remain on the board. Library board bylaws state that if a board member misses 2 consecutive board meetings without an adequate excuse, the board will bring this matter to the attention of county council for consideration and termination from the board. We request that Ms. Smith be removed from the board so that a replacement can be named for the remainder of her term. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Allocation of direct funding not to exceed $210,000 to the town of Salem for the engineering installation of water line along Highway 11 Business Corridor, pump station, generator, and related system and infrastructure. On July 17, 2018, funds not to exceed $210,000 were approved by council to be appropriated from the Economic Development Fund and committed as a match for purposes of contributing to a grant which will improve the town of Salem's water system with the extension of a water line along Highway 11. The funds would ultimately be presented as match on the EDA disaster relief grant application for which no award was granted to the town of Salem. On May 21st, 2019, council approved the funds to be earmarked for the same project and authorized the county administrator to allow the county grants writer and coordinator to work with the town of Salem to obtain a grant for the remaining amount of the project cost. An economic infrastructure grant application was submitted to the South Carolina RIA, but no award was granted due to greater infrastructure needs in the state. The $210,000 remains earmarked and unspent. In 2020, the town of Salem applied for a loan from the state revolving fund and was selected for the 2021 fiscal year 20 project list. The town of Salem has been awarded $216,000 in principal forgiveness assistance for the estimated cost of $270,000. The Roser Group is currently managing engineering for the project and the SRF loan. The Roser Group has estimated the total project cost to be $740,922.40. The town of Salem wishes to be directly allocated the earmarked $210,000 to supplement the difference between the SRF estimate and the Roser Group's estimate of the total project cost and begin construction of the project. The allocation of these funds will allow the town of Salem to begin construction as soon as possible and make much needed improvements to the water system. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Mr. Harden? Mr. Harden's been sitting here all night.
I'm enjoying myself.
Can you just give us a few more details on it, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Council, thank you again for your time. Just to reiterate what we discussed already, The town has earmarked in their budget $215 some odd thousand to complete the remainder of the project. We will be receiving the $217,000 through principal forgiveness from the state revolving fund. And with the county's approval tonight, we'll have what we need to move forward with the phase one of the loop project that we began talking about some years ago now. The project is still in the development stage as far as building a bid packet or scope of work, in which we hope to have done in the next 60 days. And if everything goes well, and forgive me, it is a fluid situation, we hope to have a winning bid allotted July 1st is our target, and that would begin with, that would allow construction to begin hopefully in early fall, to be completed late fall, possibly early winter. This project we anticipate will be completed by then.
Any questions for Mr. Harden? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You know, when this project first came out, we didn't have a lot of information on it. It was actually presented as an economic development project, and it was quite, I guess, an interesting way of promoting what this was. I met with you, went over everything, and quickly learned exactly what this project was, the impact that it had on there. So, you know, sometimes there'll be, I had a change in heart. No, I understood the project more, and with the correct communication, the mayor coming up, talking about some things, actually explaining what this project was for, it wasn't water to one specific point, it was water to many, many, many homes in that area with hope for some development out there. But number one is the homes that are struggling with water issues out there. So I just wanted to state that it's been I appreciate the presentation that y'all have given, continuing to fight for this. Staff, I'm always very big proponent on us doing whatever we can for our cities. And this is not really something that we always do from a county standpoint. You know, we help with the city of Westminster with their $50,000 to help get their water study. I know the hours that our staff has put in there, Miss Maddie sitting right here. So I just want to make sure that was mentioned from our staff of the county working in partnership, and y'all continuing to fight for this water line. It's a great partnership. It's not always perfect, but we're always going to get there together. So, Mayor, I just want to recognize you and your staff member here, and thank you for what y'all are doing to communicate properly to us, because we don't always understand it. And sometimes we've got to do our own research, and I appreciate y'all being open and talking to us, and thankful for our staff for continuing to work hard on it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harden, I was with you from the beginning. Didn't understand or anything like that. When I seen it presented, I knew what it was, and I was for you. Like I say, the first time I heard it and seen what it could do. In fact, it's gonna bring up your fire protection. It's vastly, it's gonna, double or triple it?
Our capacity will be increased 250% instantly.
What about the fire protection?
It follows suit.
It's already a 4.
Huh?
It's already a 4.
That's it, thank you.
I think it's a great thing, and I'm looking forward to phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 3 will be the finished
The
closed
completion,
loop, right?
yes, sir, the bow on top, if you will. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Tarr?
And before I just want to thank you all for your help and your kind words, and I cannot thank your staff enough for what they've done. This would not have happened if it hadn't been for these two women here. And any opportunity I've had, I want to say thank you for the leadership, guidance, and the hard work they've done, and the patience that you guys have shown us. So on behalf of the town of Salem, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always good to hear good things about our people. Thank you.
Ms. Brunt, will you make sure our staff gets recognized?
Yes, this is Maddie Crumpton. She is our grants writer. She is also serving as kind of interim basis as my assistant right now. She is pretty much drank through a fire hose from the minute she got here. Has handled everything with grace and ease. Once in a blue moon, you'll get that deer in the headlight look. I like, oh, I might have piled too much on Maddie. But working with Lynn, Ryan, Marty, the town of Salem's awesome. They're just like family to us. Of course, we wish we could have the red carpet. If there's any design flaw that we have at Oconee County is we do not have red carpet in our council chambers. And we love going there. Ryan is a plethora of knowledge. We've helped with the process. He's helped us understand this project so that we understand exactly what we're getting for the money. And again, I do want to repeat, these $210,000 in earmark funds were budgeted for and were unexpended, so there is no additional funding required.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Boards and commission appointments. Arts and Historical Commission, I believe we have 2 questionnaires on file for District 2.
Mr. Elliott, I'd like to nominate Mr. Ernie Lombard.
All in favor of Mr. Lombard?
Aye.
Board of Zoning Appeals, I believe we have 1 questionnaire on file for this seat. Is that Mr. Mays?
Yes, sir.
I want to nominate Tim Mays for that position. All in favor of Mr. Mays? Aye. Building Codes Appeals Board, we have no questionnaires on file. Conservation Bank Board, District 4.
Yes, sir. I'd like to nominate Mr. Nick Gambrell, please, sir.
All in favor of Mr. Gambrell? Aye. We have no items in executive session tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.